Hello everybody. My name is Illyria and welcome back to Storytime, where we are reading through... Can't really see it because it's Coming of Winter. Coming of Winter. Alright. Chapter 37. Jeremy scanned the notes again before slapping his pen on the desk. 3 days in the hospital hadn't given him any fresh insights into the case. Director Bailey's welcome back to work, hope you're feeling better phone call had been a not-so-subtle reminder that the clock was still ticking on his career. Though he'd at least reset the timer. This week and next week, then sail off into retirement. Oh, and expect a call from Colonel Kronfeld. Maybe even a visit. Jeremy suspected that's why his boss had been generous with the extra time. Kronfeld wanted him on the government payroll a bit longer. Sweeten the deal. Talk him out of quitting. Promise whatever as long as the agreement is signed. Thank you for the daily dab. How you doing, Honor? You changed your color to blue. Your color is yellow. Blasphemy. I hope you're doing good today. Am I blue? It looks blue to me. Unless all my stuff is wrong. If you're questioning it, then... yeah, it is blue. Gasp. Change it back. Thank you. I was like, I don't like change. No, you're still blue? I see it as yellow now. Give it a second. It won't change your previous chats to, it won't change all your previous chats to yellow. It should be yellow going forward. But I promise, it's yellow. That's better. The world is back into balance. You may need to, I guess, close stream and come back. But it doesn't matter. The important thing is I can see it and Cal can see it, so it is the truth despite it lying to you. Yeah. So can Hemi. Promise, we're not gaslighting you. He glanced at the clock and realized an hour had passed. Time for a bit of exercise. Doctor's orders and, more importantly, Maggie's. He stood, grabbed his coffee mug, and headed for the break room. People smiled and nodded as he passed them. A few asked how he was feeling. The true answer was that although the blood clot was gone and the leg pain far less common, he was tired and cranky, though the actual response was somewhat less specific. I hope you're doing well today, Honor. Well rested, all that fun jazz stuff, things. Fine. He was relieved to find the break room empty. He hated making small talk, especially when he was the subject. Funny. He could sit with Maggie for hours, only speaking now and then, and be perfectly happy. Anyone else, though, and the awkward gaps in the conversations aided him. I feel that. He dumped his cold coffee in the sink, rinsed his mug, and held the cup higher to get a better look. Could be his imagination, but it looked like the brown tinges inside the mug had darkened. Small victories. Just about to have some lunch. Oh. I've been doing pretty good, yeah. I'm a little tired of the double amount of streams that I've done this week. I'll be happily getting back to what the usual schedule this upcoming week. But I'm excited that I was able to share as many demos from the next fest, the sniff event. Oh, yes, thank you. It's not where I usually put it, so I'm like, oh, I know what that thing is. Where is it? Frantically looking around my OBS screen. Clearly, I hadn't gotten enough sleep. Even though I went to bed at a reasonable time. Anyway. Back in his office, he browsed the get well cards lining the windowsill. Most were generically signed by the second floor gang or similar. How long was he supposed to leave them out before throwing them away? Greeting card etiquette wasn't his strong suit. Same. He clicked his tongue against the roof of his mouth, sank into his chair, and scanned his laptop's inbox for anything important. All the messages appeared routine except one near the top. Troy Obion. Maybe he had news. Hope you're feeling better. Nothing new. Blackston's ex-husband calls me at least once a week. I don't know what to tell him, so I say we're still investigating it. I thought maybe it would help if we got together and brainstormed. Jeremy propped his elbow on the desk, rested his head on his hand, and reread the email. Couldn't hurt to bounce a few ideas off each other. He typed a return email. Hi, Troy. Sounds good. Give me a call when you get a chance, and we'll set something up. Less than a minute after sending the email, Jeremy's cell phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and smiled. That was fast. Hey, Troy. What's up? Not much. Thanks for getting back to me so quick. No problem. Glad to hear from you. Uh-huh. I figured it might do us both some good to get together and talk about the Blackston case. You know, face to face. Seems like nothing else is working at this point. Sounds like a plan. The more I try to find some sort of connection between these disappearances and murders, the further away I seem to get. Got anywhere in mind? I'll come to you. There's a little diner not too far from here. How about breakfast on Saturday? You pick the time. Early. Oh, I'm going to send you a name to dig into. Dwayne Forsberg. Accidental death in Chickasaw National Wildlife Refuge. You know where that is? Up in the northwest corner of Tennessee. Who's Dwayne Forsberg? In December, 6 years ago, he was hiking and was killed with a single shot from a .30-06. The authorities wrote it off as a hunting accident, even though it was in a section of the park posted as off limits for hunters. They never found the shooter. Probably wouldn't have charged him even if they had. Hunting accidents happen all the time. What makes you think this one's connected? Hold some quick data on Tennessee parks, you know, because of the license plate that might have been seen at the Thornquist site. Wondering if our guy killed anyone down that way. Forsberg's death is the only unsolved one in a Tennessee park for the last decade. So I'm hoping there's a link. Kind of thin, I know. I'll make some phone calls and get a look at the file and autopsy report. See if they were able to get anything off the bullet. And if they've run the details through the database lately. I appreciate it. And if you could keep this between us, hey, I'm glad to do it. Maybe we'll actually have something to talk about at breakfast. Oh, and come hungry. The plate was huge and entirely too small. Bacon strips hung over the edges, a biscuit held on for dear life, and some of the fried potatoes had already succumbed to gravy and fallen to the table. Jeremy sprinkled the scrambled eggs with pepper and watched as Troy squirted ketchup on his eggs and potatoes. You gonna put that on the biscuit too? The officer placed his bacon and biscuit on a napkin and mixed his plate's remaining contents with the speed and precision of a hibachi restaurant chef. Well, that would just be wrong, wouldn't it? Honey or jelly for the biscuit, sometimes both. Ew, why would you miss both? Whatever gets you through the day, I guess. Troy leaned forward and lowered his voice. The waitress has a thing for me. You want extra biscuits? Just let me know. I'll keep that in mind. But I'm sure this'll be more than enough. I'll probably need a nap if I eat even half of it. I've heard that happens to old guys. Naps and whatnot. Yeah, I'm starting to get that a lot. Troy set down his fork and shifted in his seat. Oh, hey man. I didn't mean anything by it, just messing with you. Jeremy shook his head. I know. Don't worry about it. That stuff doesn't bother me. It's like Ronald Reagan once said, don't hold my age against me and I won't hold your youth and inexperience against you. It does happen to us. Sweetie, you're in your 30s. Shut up and sit down. Reagan? I think I read about him back in high school. Wasn't he? The waitress stopped by the table and topped off their coffee. Y'all doing okay? Can I get you anything, Troy? The officer's tanned, round face took on a reddish tint, and he glanced up at the young woman. Hey, Peggy. Good, thanks. But you also shut up. The blonde smiled and placed her hand on the back of the booth seat. How about another biscuit? That would be great. She winked at Jeremy and motioned toward Troy. Careful, this one will talk your ear off. I'm learning that, Jeremy said. He was just telling me how much he enjoys coming here. Good food and better service. Says you always take such good care of him. Troy used his fork to remix the eggs and potatoes, moving them from one side of his plate to the other, then focused intently on the buttering of his biscuit. Is that right? Becky said. She patted the officer on the back. Well, we do our best. Now, I've got to go take care of other customers. But I'll be back with the biscuit soon enough. You need anything else, you holler. Okay, Troy? You've been scammed? Well, yes, because you're not Button. Do I want somebody to whisper in my ear about biscuits? Let me find my line. Give it a go, Honor, then share how it goes. Oh, my lord. Biscuits have been buttered. Oh, goodness gracious. Shoot, I lost my place. Biscuits. They do sound good, don't they? Oh, his eyes remained fixated on his plate. Sure thing. What did I tell you? Take your ear off. Talk your ear off, she laughed, and moved off to the next patrons. Jeremy pushed his plate away and rested his forearms on the table. Why don't you get it over with and ask her out? You know you want to, and even better, you know she wants you to. Troy pulled his ball cap lower and pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. Did you come all this way to talk about my love life or lack of it? You got something better to discuss? Troy shrugged. I suppose that depends on your definition of better. Let me ask you something. You ever been hunting? Deer hunting? No. I prefer to get my food the way God intended. At the grocery store. We should go... Congratulations on your very first Batcave Wall of Fame. What do you mean, what the fuck? It's amazing and you know it. I see you, sweetie. You bought books? You got me books? Oh,
interesting.
Thank you, sweetie.
Yeah. From the look, but they look interesting.
Oh, well, they look like they're from the same series. Oh, thank you, sweetie.
They had the whole series.
Thank you.
I think that's the whole series, but
That's so nice. Well, brought me home some books.
Yeah, it's a prisoner in protective custody and just protected.
Oh, cool. A man who buys you books is a keeper.
Yes.
Yes.
Love you. Have a good training.
I love you too. Thank you. And I also have my, what is it? My hydration drink. I was just listening to you and you had to do a turn. Yes, I know. It is quite a bit of a change from, nice, crackling and wood sounds and just reading and whatnot to a complete and utter dance party, so... But Artie McFarty, he made me the song and I built the video around it, so... I think it's lovely. It goes with the general vibe of the place most of the time. It's a bit of a wake-up call when we're doing something a little bit more relaxed like this. But most of the time I'm loud and obnoxious, so it fits. But... Yes, shooketh. I understand. But, I will get the, I'll get the list updated after today's stream, and, I'll put you on it. If anybody does not know, in my About section at the very, bottom is the list of all of our Batcave Wall of Famers. And the number of times that they have redeemed that honor to be on our Wall of Fame. Of course, since my husband is my biggest supporter, he has the most. I think he's at like 17 now, I think. But, yes, no turtles in the half shells. Turtles in the half shells. I said the Ninja Turtles, but like I think that's the animated series. Maybe. Anyway, we're getting off track. But yes. I was right. It's been decades, I tell you, since I actually saw that. My memory astounds me. Any hoodles. Let's get back to making Troy feel awkward about the lady he gets a crush on. And clearly has a crush on him back. You watched it on VHS? We did not have that on VHS, but I remember seeing it on TV. And that was the only part of the theme song I remember. Oh, goodness gracious. Or lack of it. Suppose that depends on your definition of better. Have you ever been hunting? Okay, here we go. Grocery store. Okay, here we go. We should go this winter. I know a place. Sorry, off topic. Anyway, I do some hunting when I can, and I'll tell you this. Either Dwayne Forsberg was the unluckiest man on the planet, or he was intentionally shot. Jeremy leaned forward. Go on. I will sing the Ninja Turtle song for you later. Thank you. Greatly appreciate. Yes, serenade me with the ye old Ninja Turtles animated series theme song. I love you. Jeremy leaned forward. So, that's literally all I know of it. Go on. Like we figured, there wasn't much in the file we didn't already know. A hiker shot by a stray bullet. Not enough left of the slug to do any kind of ballistics on it, but most likely a 30-06 round. Shell casing was never found. The autopsy report was interesting. How so? The coroner ruled it death by gunshot, obviously. Clean hit, right through the head. Entered through the left cheek and exited by the right ear. The guy most likely died instantly, although the coroner thought he could have hung on for a minute or two. Looking at the photos, I hope it was the former. Yeah, me too. Anything else? Yeah, this guy was over 6 feet tall, 6'2" to be exact. And you ever see a 6-foot tall deer wandering around? In this part of the country, the whitetails get about 3, maybe 3.5 feet tall at the shoulders. Jeremy rocked back and forth. Jeremy rocked back into the booth. Terrain? I looked over the photos, but couldn't tell much. Besides the body, there were only a few generic shots of the surrounding area. Nothing against the local cops. They didn't have any reason to suspect anything more than an accident. Maybe I can... Troy held up his hand. I already did. Visited the scene, I mean. Is that what you were going to say? Okay, Twitch is telling me that we should be experiencing the ads in about 30 seconds. So once ads pop up, I'll bookmark it so nobody misses any part of the story. Just an FYI. He's good. It is, and what did you learn? No hills to amount to anything. The bullet's trajectory at the point of impact was basically flat, possibly slightly upward. No way the shot came from a hunter in a tree stand. And according to the file, this was a clean hit. No tree scrapes found. You think Forsberg was targeted? Like I said, if this was an accident, the guy was the unluckiest man in the world. Based on the direction of the impact, the shot came from a stand of trees on the other side of a clearing. Minimum distance of around 50 yards. More likely 70 yards at least. Either way, that's close enough to know what you're shooting at. Especially if you're an experienced hunter, which I'm guessing the shooter was. Why? Clean shot through the trees. Depending upon where the shooter was, there weren't many options available. He'd have had to wait for just the right moment before pulling the trigger. That's assuming it was intentional. I've seen freak accidents before. 10 or 11 years ago, there was a case in Florida with a woman driving her car down the interstate and getting shot. Her window was open less than 5 inches, and the bullet came through that gap and killed her instantly. They were sure they had a sniper on their hands. Turned out to be a hunter. Took a shot at a deer and missed. The bullet ricocheted off a pond's surface and had just enough left to do its damage. I have questions about that. Bullets don't ricochet off of water. At least I don't think they do. Occam's razor, Troy said. Excuse me? Sorry, something I learned back in college. Occam's razor is a principle that says in lieu of better evidence, the simplest solution is usually the best. Doesn't mean the answer can't be more complex, but until someone proves otherwise, why not accept the most plausible scenario? See, in this case, the most likely situation was that Dwayne Forsberg was killed by an errant bullet from a deer hunter, so that's what the police went with. You can't fault them for that. Nothing pointed anywhere else. Jeremy ran his hand across his scalp. Yeah, but you think they were wrong? I do too, but I haven't heard anything that sounds like evidence. Could be your we're bending the facts to fit our hypothesis. They can ricochet off water like skipping stones. Oh. The more you know. Oh, might be on here. I think it'll be in the corner. I was curious too, huh? Interesting, huh? I guess if it would work for a stone, it could work for other things too that are normally... that would normally break the surface of the water. That's a fun fact. Not in that lady's case, but in general. Can't argue with that. But we both know I'm right. What we don't know is whether or not there's any connection between this death and the others. It certainly doesn't fit the profile. The complete body was found. Nothing missing. If this is your serial killer, why didn't he follow his pattern? Don't know. Forsberg was killed 6 years ago, so that would make him the earliest victim we're aware of. The murderers evolved since then. Maybe he was figuring himself out, deciding what worked best. Maybe. You're the expert. So where do we go from here? Listen, Troy. I appreciate what you've done, but you don't have to hang around on this. I don't want you to get in any trouble with your chief. Won't be any trouble. No way I'm dropping this now. We've had more fun in the last couple of days than I've had in, well, a long time. Fun? Maybe that's not the right word. I just feel like I've actually done something that matters, you know? Like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah, I understand exactly how you feel. Anyway, I'll pull the database of licensed hunters in West Tennessee and cross-reference that with the list of people with the agricultural license plates on their pickup trucks. Troy chuckled. That'll probably narrow it down to a couple 100,000 people. Jeremy stood and stretched. You got a better idea? Hey man, you're the boss. I just follow orders. You want an order? Call that waitress. Chapter 38. The day dragged by as Jeremy's mood staggered between boredom and depression. It'd been days since his meeting with Troy, and nothing had changed. Tennessee's vehicle database provided no clues that would narrow down the search for any potential killer. He'd say the investigation had come to a screeching halt, but it had never been moving to begin with. His phone rang, and he grabbed it, thankful for a break. Hey, Troy. What's up? You get rid of that cold? Yeah, finally. Calling to give you an update. Jeremy's heartbeat accelerated. On what? I called her. Peggy. The waitress you met? We're going out this weekend. His chest hollowed, and he sank back in his chair. About time. Huh. She said the same thing. Anyway, I wanted to bounce something off you. Troy, I'm probably not the guy you want to get relationship advice from. Officer laughed. I think I can handle that side of things. But if I do run into problems, I'll be sure to give you a call. A flash of heat swept through Jeremy's face. I didn't mean... Forget it. What's up? I know we're waiting for something to shake loose on the Blackston case. I keep thinking it's not going to happen soon. I mean, it's been 7 months since she went missing. I drove by her place, and there's somebody else living there now. They hired someone to replace her at work less than 2 weeks after she disappeared, or left, or whatever. It's like she was never here. Maybe that's what she wanted, Troy. You believe that? Be nice if I did. I'd get more sleep. Right. Me too. So I'm in bed last night, flicking through the TV channels. Infomercials, reruns, and documentaries. I end up watching this show on bird watching. Exciting stuff, right? People were talking about how much fun it was to spot a bird they'd never seen before. Check it off a list. That kind of thing. You're not thinking about taking it up, are you? Can't picture you creeping through the woods for a bird unless you're planning on shooting and cooking the thing. Nah. Dove hunting's okay, but hardly worth the effort. Not much meat on them, you know? Turkeys. Now that's different. Anyway, I'm kind of half listening to this show, fading in and out, about to turn off the TV. But at the end of the show, they put up a picture of one of the guys they interviewed. You know, like those in memoriam things they do sometimes. Except this fella wasn't dead. He's missing. Jeremy stretched his left leg and wiggled his foot. Missing from where? Trail of Tears State Forest in Illinois. Jeremy sat upright. How long? Almost 4 months. Disappeared back in May. From what I've been able to find out so far, the local news initially covered it as a lost hiker since his car was still there. They didn't make much sense, though, since the guy was experienced and the park's not that big. They searched for a couple of days and didn't find anything. The local PD is treating it as a suspicious missing person case now. What's his name? Simon Price. White male. 5'10", 155. Details are coming your way in a few minutes. Want it to go on your personal or work email? Work. I'll jump on it as soon as I get it. You know, if you need anything from me, I appreciate it, Troy. I owe you big time. Next breakfast is on me. Once I do a bit of digging on this and figure out our next move, I'll be in touch. Thanks a lot, Jeremy. We'll get this guy. We will. Yeah, we will. He hung up and tapped a finger on his laptop, urging the email to come through. His stomach fluttered, and he squeezed his eyes shut in an effort to contain his emotion. He'd been down this road before. The highs and lows, the daydreams and nightmares. And more often than not, he'd been disappointed. Crushed even. Hope could do that to a man. Chapter 39. I'll be in DC first thing tomorrow morning. Jeremy turned the laptop slightly to reduce the glare on the screen. Maggie raised her eyebrows. You sure this is a good idea? A good idea? Yes. Maybe. I suppose it depends on your point of view. And from mine, I've got nothing to lose. Director Bailey is not going to be happy. You at least let him know you're coming, didn't you? He knows. Not all the details, but he knows. Maggie's shoulders dropped as she sighed and leaned back in her office chair. And you're 100% positive about this? A serial killer? No doubts, no questions? Jeremy intertwined his fingers. 100%? Of course not. But I'm sure enough that I'm willing to go for it. Well, I'd say this was career suicide, but at this point, I'm not sure that matters. He laughed and sipped a Diet Coke. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't have to worry about that. One way or another, I'm done at the Bureau. The only question is whether I'll go out on my terms or someone else's. I know which I prefer. Me too. So, was it hard to get an appointment with Senator Morgan's? Not at all. Called her office, left my name, number, and a brief message, and one of her aides phoned me within an hour and set it up. Guess she just loves meeting with the public. Uh-huh. And what was the message? I don't remember exactly, but it was something along the lines of, I know your husband, and I can talk to you, or I can talk to Fox News. Your choice. Like I said, she must like sitting down with voters, even ones that aren't from her state. Keep in touch with the common man and all that stuff. One corner of her mouth turned down. You're not very good at making new friends. What are you going to say? I'm not sure. I guess it depends upon how she reacts. Maggie leaned closer to the screen. Be careful. I don't get the sense that the Colonel is going to be too pleased when he finds out you talked to his wife. I'm counting on it. But I need you to do me a favor, just in case. Anything. What is it? Kronfeld told me the men who reported to him in Afghanistan all signed an agreement to keep quiet. He said it was a term of their release from the military. I need to know if that's true. And if it's not? Jeremy tapped his finger on the desk. Then I'm not the only one he's worried about. Could be others who are in the same boat. If so, he's probably playing the same game with them. Though he couldn't have as much leverage. Not unless they worked for the government too. He'd have to beg, promise, and threaten. Or worse. She scrunched her eyebrows. Worse? Nothing. See what you can find out, and we'll go from there. You don't think he'd... I think he'd do whatever he had to do in order to eliminate anyone he perceived as a threat. Including you? He shook his head. No. At least not yet. Too risky. I'm probably getting paranoid. You know, I searched the internet to see if there's a way he could have caused my blood clot. There's not. At least that I could find. Great. Now I've got you paranoid too. Just covering all the bases, no harm in that, is there? I suppose not. So you'll check on the other guys in his unit and keep it as quiet as possible? Yep. I've got a few contracts over at Defense. Shouldn't be too difficult. What are you going to tell Bailey? Jeremy stretched and yawned. If my meeting with Senator Morgans goes well, I won't have to tell him anything. And if it doesn't, been nice working with you. Chapter 40. The senator's side escorted Jeremy into a surprisingly plain office. An American flag stood next to Pennsylvania's square blue one. Dozens of photos, many needing straightening, covered the walls. The room was large but shallowed by an oversized wooden desk covered in stacks of paper. A scattering of mismatched chairs and side tables rounded out the area. Diane Morgans didn't need a fancy office. People fought to impress her, not the other way around. Senator Morgans will be with you shortly, the aide said. Please make yourself comfortable. Can I get you anything? No, thank you. I'm fine. Very well. The senator has allotted 10 minutes to speak with you. Please respect her time. You got it. Jeremy dragged one of the chairs closer to the desk, sat, and pulled out his phone to sort through emails. He still hadn't decided what to say, or perhaps more importantly, how to say it. He knew what he wanted, and he thought he understood what she wanted, but bringing the two concerns together could be tricky. To make matters worse, the senator had made a career out of successful one-sided compromises. She tended to get her way. Voices outside the door alerted him that his waiting time was over. Senator Morgans, her brunette hair slightly disheveled, strode into the room. She wore a dark dress rather than the pantsuit many women in politics seem to favor. A silver chain dangled around her neck, complementing her diamond earrings and the obligatory American flag pin. Overly red lipstick seemed to be the only makeup she wore. Somehow, the outfit didn't clash with the black running shoes on her feet. The woman was in her mid-50s, but looked a dozen years younger. Politics and power treated her well. She extended her hand. Special Agent Winter, Diane Morgans. Nice of you to meet with me. Jeremy ignored the urge to tell her it was he who called the meeting. Senator, A pleasure. Now then, what is this about? How can I help you? Actually, it's more about how we can help each other. Compromise. That's what happens in Washington, right? Hi, Megan. Welcome in. I hope you are doing well today. Happy Sunday. I hope everything is doing this well. I know it's evening for you, about 6:29 p.m., so I hope your day is this splendid. And you've had a good one thus far. The senator laughed and settled into her chair. You no more believe that than I do, Agent Winter. Arm twisting, yelling, and threatening. And that's on a good day. Yes, ma'am. And I'm here to make sure today is a good day for both of us. Perhaps a very good day. Oh, what you got for dinner? Morgans leaned forward. You have my attention for the next 8 minutes. Jeremy cleared his throat. I only need 2. She nodded for him to continue. First, I'll assume you're recording this conversation. I've got no problem with that. I'm confident you're assuming the same thing. The senator pulled a mirror from her desk and inspected her lipstick. Fine, he said. I'm certain you're unaware. But your husband has paid me a few visits lately. Wants to talk about some things that happened in Afghanistan, which, again, I'm sure you have no knowledge of. Steak pie with mashed potatoes and cauliflower cheese. That sounds delicious. Give Tibby and Uhtred a pet for me. I know Tibby will be appreciative, and Uhtred not so much, but he'll get over it. Morgans held the mirror up to get a look at her hair, frowned, and dropped it back in the drawer. He dropped his voice a notch and kept his face expressionless. Senator, I'm on the verge of early retirement. That's all I want. To go away peacefully and quietly. No problems. No rocking the boat. I'm not into the political side of things. Don't want to be. But at the point my girlfriend gets dragged into the situation, I start to get upset. Can't control myself. Maybe you've seen my file? Anger management issues, it says. Agent Winter, let me assure you that I hold the members of our law enforcement community in the highest regard. The highest. I have no patience for those who seek to make a difficult job even harder. He scooted to the edge of his chair. Thank you, Senator. Sometimes when I get all worked up about something, I do things I'd rather not. Understand? Won't have that problem once I retire, I'm sure. I'll leave the politics to the folks who know how to handle things like yourself. Senator Morgan stood and smiled. Thank you for stopping by, Agent Winter. Always a pleasure to meet people we're working so hard to serve. Yes, ma'am. Thanks for your time. I wonder if it's not too much trouble if you could do one thing for me. Certainly, if I can. He passed her a piece of paper. Just need you to make a phone call. She scanned the note quickly. Have a pleasant day, Agent Winter. As he expected, Director Bailey was not happy. It had been less than an hour since Jeremy's meeting with Senator Morgans, and he'd be standing before his boss before the last 10 minutes, silent and weathered the verbal storm. Finally, Bailey motioned one of the burgundy leather armchairs, and Jeremy sat. Hey, Surfy. Just popping in and say hello before you play bingo. Okay, well, before you go play some bingo, don't forget to submit your chat command so you can sit up top the corn maze. The director made brief eye contact, then turned back to his computer monitor. Now then, Agent Winter, would you care to share the details of your visit with the senator? Thank you. Sir, Senator Morgans made it very clear that our meeting was to remain confidential. I can't discuss it. So you go behind my back, and I wasn't trying to circumvent you, sir. It's just that don't interrupt me again. You went behind my back, plopped me right in the middle of your little firestorm. Yep, he's taking a good look up there. Jeremy shifted in his seat. That wasn't my intention, sir. I wanted to find a solution that worked for everyone. Really? The most important senator on the Appropriations Committee calls and tells me that I'm what I'm going to do, and you think that works for me? Well, I'm no longer your problem, sir. You've got a free pass on me. Anything goes wrong, you can tell everyone you had no choice. Just doing what you were told. Agent Winter, you still report to me. That means no matter what, you're my problem. Just so we're on the same page here, let me clarify a few things. First, you will remain an FBI employee until your serial killer theory is resolved. Second, I'm the one who will determine when that is. No progress means no case. Lastly, you work alone. No support from the Bureau. Fair enough. When I do confirm we've got a killer on the loose, I can assume I'll get the assistance at that point? Bailey's lips formed a thin line. I wouldn't assume anything if I were you. Great. Understood. I did want to let you know that we've come across a new disappearance at a state park in Illinois 2 months ago. Physical evidence of a connection to the other cases? None. Then I'm not interested. Sir, I truly am sorry for putting you in this situation. If I thought there was any other way, Bailey took a heavy breath and punched a few keys on his computer. 3 days ago, you were on the phone with a police officer in Indiana. Care to tell me what the call was about? Jeremy stretched his legs and wiggled his feet. You're monitoring my phone calls? Bailey shrugged. We monitor all calls going in and out. You know that. I've been with the Bureau for more than 2 decades, and it's never come up before. The timing seems odd. The director walked over and sat in the chair next to Jeremy. You know, there are days I wish I was back on this side of the desk. Then I think about your paycheck and remember why I put up with the politics. You are a good agent. Finish strong, and I will do what I can for you. Jeremy held back a smile. There's one more thing, sir. Don't press your luck. It's not for me. I've got a friend who would make an excellent agent. I was hoping you could arrange an interview for him. Let me guess. Your police officer buddy in Indiana? Yes, sir. You'd be doing the Bureau a favor if you took a look at him. Bailey stood and moved back to his desk. Uh-huh. Send me his resume. No promises, though. You know how tight the budget is these days. Jeremy nodded. Yes, sir. But I also know there'll be an opening soon. The director held out his hand and Jeremy took it. Yes, there will be, Agent Winter. For better or worse, there will be. Chapter 41. Hold on just a second, I need both my hands. All right. Mason's boys walked with him through the corn maze to check that everything was ready. The crop looked good and thick. He'd planted twice. First, north-south, then east-west. This was the 4th year for the maze. and each time the design became more intricate. GPS units allowed him to stake out the paths and then mow through when the corn was less than a foot tall. From that point, regular cutting and trimming was all the upkeep needed. Shouldn't be any problem maintaining the 6-acre attraction until Halloween. This year, they'd gone all out and purchased 200 flashlights, so they could operate well past dark. Paula thought they should charge extra at night, but he hadn't yet decided. This was as much a project for the community as it was a way to generate additional income for the farm. Still, his wife had a point. It would be mostly teenagers at night, and if they spooked the maze up a bit, an extra $1 or $2 per person would be justified. Probably ought to put a stack of hay bales there, Lucas said, at a ghost or a scarecrow. The boy would be 11 in another month and had a knack for life around the farm. His younger brother worshipped the ground he walked on, so no doubt he developed the same traits. Good boys make good farmers. Agreed, Mason said as he made a note on his sketch. We can put a guide there too. Each year, half a dozen of the local kids sign up to work in the maze as helpers for lost wanderers. Most people took a little over an hour to get through the whole thing, but it wasn't unusual for some folks to spend twice as long in there, especially the teenagers who sought out dark corners to pursue other activities, though the guides were told not to let things get too serious. Mason didn't mind, since the longer the people wandered about, the more it increased business at the cold drink stand set up at the maze's exit. Dad, Andy said, we shouldn't call them scarecrows. No? The boy said. They're scarecrows. Scarecrow. Part scarecrow, part skeleton. I love it. Scarecrows it is. Now let's get finished out here. I'm about to get hungry, and your mom's fixing... Bet you can't find me! Andy had run ahead again and hid himself somewhere around a corner. Mason squatted next to Lucas and placed a hand on his shoulder. Shh. Let's just stay quiet and wait here. His son grinned, nodded, and loud whispered, How long do you think it'll take? Couple of minutes, probably less. A gust of wind, still quite warm for early September, rustled the cornstalk and caused their long shadows to dance along the path. Andy hollered from up ahead, Are y'all looking for me? Lucas stifled a giggle and Mason winked at him. Guys! A cloud passed in front of the low sun and its shadow covered the fields. Lucas cupped his hands from his mouth. Ooh, Andy! Ooh. 2 seconds later, the younger brother barreled through the corner. I knew it was you. Did not. Uh-huh, Andy said. There's no such thing as ghosts, is there, Dad? Mason stood and tapped a finger on his chin. Well, that's a good question. I think... He grabbed his youngest son and scooped him up, planting kisses on his neck and cheeks. The boy's ever-present camouflage ball cap tumbled to the ground. I think we need to get finished before the sunset. Your mama's not going to be real happy if we're late for dinner. The trek through the maze took another hour. A few more areas would need hay bales and additional cutting. Mason agreed to let Lucas use the tractor tomorrow to move the straw to the attraction's entrance before using the small mower to place them in the final positions. His younger brother begged to help, but distractions were dangerous. when heavy equipment was involved. Safety first. Instead, Andy would spend the day with his mother at the thrift store shopping for clothes. 4 new scarecrows would make their debut this Halloween. The bigger the maze, the more decorations were needed. Each had to be dressed just right, though Paula had kidded him once about the time he spent primping them. But then, she hadn't understood yet. It wouldn't do to have his friends hanging all month without proper attire. Chapter 42. The old storm cellar had a bit of a chill, and Mason cranked up the space heater. Normally, he'd leave it off so things didn't rot too fast, but the warmth wouldn't be a problem now. Blue Shirt was done. The Beatles fat and happy. The only bad thing about this time of year was how busy he got. No time to gather more decorations. Most of the insects would die off before they'd be fed again, and he'd need to replace them. Cost of doing business. Besides, he had enough scarecrows for this year. He didn't want to be like the neighbor who already had up half a dozen Christmas trees in her home. Overkill. Such a great word. He and Paula had already decided to expand the maze by a couple of acres next Halloween, so he'd need to increase the inventory before them. But not now. Have to wait until Halloween is over. The sacrifices one makes. Sarah Goldman got dibs on the clothes. First come, first served. He pulled the box containing her skull from a shelf, brushed the dust from the lid, and opened it. Sarah looked good. Hadn't aged a bit. His design process was holding up well. He'd stumbled across a video on the internet, made a few adaptations, and voila! An actual skeleton that looked like a fake plastic one from Dollar General. Simple, really. After the dermisted beetles finished their work, he sprayed the skull with several thin coats of polyurethane. The resin gave the bone a sheen, but more importantly, it offered some protection. Next, he wrapped the skull in cheap, wafer-thin plastic drop cloths from the hardware store. A heat gun shrunk the plastic onto the bone. He'd debated using stains to spook up the appearance, but in the end decided to leave it bleached white. So much purer. But in the end decided so much purer. The results was a plasticky looking skull that looked fake, but real enough. And it was protected from the weather. He toted the box upstairs and placed it on the workbench. Sarah had been a petite girl. Last year, they'd actually used Junior Miss's clothes for her scarecrow. She needed to grow up for this Halloween. He glanced at the skull and shook his head. 5 teeth missing. He'd had no choice. Store-bought skeletons didn't have fillings in their teeth. Paula had left the boxes from the thrift store shopping expedition by the barn door, and he ruffled through them. Couldn't throw any old thing on his Sarah. She wouldn't like that. He pieced several outfits together before settling on one. A black long-sleeve t-shirt with some sort of Asian design on the back, ripped jeans, and an Atlanta Braves cap. He tied the bottoms of the pant legs, cut a hole in the seat, and fed a 10-foot piece of 2x2 pressure-treated lumber through the jeans. He partially stuffed the pants with hay, making sure not to overdo it so she wouldn't look fat. About a foot down from the top of the pole, he nailed a crossbeam and pulled the t-shirt over it. Safety pins attached the jeans to the shirt. This was easier with the men, but his girls didn't wear suspenders. He stuffed her to chest high, propped the scarecrow against the barn wall, and stepped back to admire his work. So far, so good. Her outfit looked appropriately youthful, like something she'd really wear to school, if she was still alive. Years of displaying them, and no one had shown any concern that they might be real. Nor would they. Still, he had his answer ready if the question ever came up. A chuckle, then explain his skeletons are a little pricier than the ones you get at the dollar store. Had to order them off the internet from a specialty Halloween supplier. Maybe even let a curious guest touch one of them just to feel the plastic. That would satisfy anyone. He'd keep his friends' heads out of reach. Around 8 feet off the ground, the posts would set in concrete about a foot deep, then yank them up with the tractor when the season ended. Until then, he'd make sure the guides kept an eye on the decorations. No vandalism would be tolerated. He finished stuffing the shirt and looped a piece of wire at the end of each sleeve, being sure to leave some hay sticking out. Back at the bench, he measured the hole at the base of Sarah's skull. Funny how that opening on everybody's head was different. Wonder if they're like fingerprints. Have to look that up. After trimming the top of the 2x2 with a jigsaw, he wrapped the wood with a generous amount of duct tape. This was always the trickiest part. The fit had to be tight enough that the wind wouldn't move the skull and possibly crack it, but loose enough that he could get it off as needed. They were trying something new this year. Battery-operated LEDs inside the skull would light it up from the inside, and the batteries would need to be replaced each morning. They'd briefly considered getting red lights, but decided just to use white. Red seemed too demonic. Once he got the fit right, he placed the Braves hat on Sarah and tilted it so the brim was a bit cockeyed. Mason tightened the cap as best he could, but if the wind blew it off, so be it. Hats were cheap. Skulls were not. No way was he going to risk damaging Sarah by gluing, taping, or stapling it to her. All in all, she looked good. The shirt was iffy, but he'd let Paula make the final call on that. He headed back to the storm cellar for the next box. Less than 2 weeks until the pumpkin patch officially opened. Had to pick up the pace. He grabbed one of the newer containers off the shelf, peeked inside, then climbed back into the barn. Catherine Mae Blackston. Let's see. Her first Halloween at the farm. What to dress her in? She seemed a bit of a pain. Boring, middle-aged woman, couldn't wear a dress, no way to stuff it properly. A nice pantsuit, maybe some dark glasses, and oh, a string of pearls. Perfect. He could almost see the excitement in Catherine's smile. Chapter 43. No matter how long Jeremy stared at it, the calendar didn't change things. Nothing new since he came to Memphis a month ago except the additional pressure on his belt. Compliments of a few extra pounds from the local pulled pork barbecue. Troy had stopped by the last couple of weekends, but no progress was made. Maggie checked in at least twice a day to encourage him. On one especially bad day, she'd hung up on him after he mentioned a new job posting for a DC-based fixed surveillance specialist. He'd fretted for half an hour before calling her back to apologize. At least Cronfell had disappeared, and Bailey had left him alone, but that wouldn't continue much longer. At some point, the FBI had to make the call. Case closed. Thanks for your service. Don't let the door smack you on the way out. He sighed and opened the vehicle database for the umpteenth time, more from habit than anything else. But at this point, his phone vibrated, and he debated throwing it across the room. Not in the mood to talk this morning. He glanced at the caller ID, Maggie. After a deep breath, he put on his best happy face and answered the call. Hey, Maggie. What's up? A male voice, high-pitched and angry, responded, Oh, not much. What's up with you, Agent Winter? Cron failed. What? Was he with Maggie? Why was he on her cell? Jeremy bit his lip and gripped the phone. Colonel. Wasn't sure you'd answer if you saw who was calling, so I spoofed your girlfriend's number. Neat little trick. Telemarketers do it all the time. What do you want? For starters, answers. Been a while since you met with my wife. A meeting I do not approve of, by the way. I played nice. Figured I'd let you two work it out. But here we are, and nothing's changed. You're still collecting a government paycheck for doing... what? Exactly. Doesn't seem like much is happening down there. Don't you feel guilty ripping off the taxpayers like that? I swear, I don't know how you sleep at night. Again, what do you want? Tell me what you discussed with my wife. His own spouse doesn't trust him. No surprise there. Have a good day, Colonel. Listen to me, Winter. If I have to come to Memphis to deal with play nice, or I'll have to call a certain senator again. I don't know what you think is going on here, but you're in no position to make threats. You want to call my wife? Call her. Go ahead. I don't care. Need her number? Nope. Got it. You have some sort of agreement with her. So what? One word from me and I guarantee your deal will go straight into the trash. You've misread the situation rather badly. If you say so. Cronfell's voice rose. I do say so. Now listen closely. I'm going to spell out exactly what you're going to do, starting with signing that confidentiality agreement. Jeremy yawned, making sure it could be heard over the phone. Not happening. No? I think it's time I upped the ante. Your girlfriend? Margaret Keeley, is it? He bolted upright and breathed hard. Leave her out of this. I hear she's a fine agent. A real asset to the Bureau. In fact, I understand she's being considered for a transfer somewhere out of state. Far out of state. You son of a click ended the discussion, and Jeremy tossed the phone on his desk. Cronfeld had the ability to make good on his threats. Maggie would have to quit the FBI if they forced her to transfer. No way her ex would allow Rebecca to move out of state. He needed to clear his thoughts. And nothing did that like some extended therapy at the shooting range. No aiming for center mass this time, though. Headshots fit his mood much better. Chapter 44. Mason stood in front of his house and pointed to an area off to the left and down a rise. The boys need to get out there this weekend and bush hog all the hay to the road. Don't want to run out of parking again this year. Paula scribbled a note. Got it. Everything else going to be same out front? Yeah, I think so. Pumpkins, hay bales, gourds, that kind of stuff. I was thinking if we could find some cheap wagons, we'd throw a few out there for the parents to haul around their kids. I'll check, but don't count on it. I think they're fairly expensive. Yard sales are probably our best bet. Oh, and the pumpkins are ordered and should be here within a week. Good. Already had a bunch of folks asking when we're opening. The maze ready? Pretty near. Still need to put a few ghosts out, hire a few more guides, stuff like that. Won't take more than a day or two. The concession stand could use a coat of paint, but I suppose it'll make it another season without it. I believe that's the same thing you said last year. I'll have the boys throw on some old clothes and spruce it up. What about the hayride? Picking up the horses tomorrow. We'll do a few trial runs to make sure they'll work out. Wouldn't mind handling them myself every day, but that's not likely. Too much else going on. You can play with your toys this winter after things settle down. See about getting somebody to do it for you. The boys don't know anything about handling horses. And until they do, I don't want them hauling around a wagon full of people. Mason rolled his eyes. Yes, dear, I'll take care of it. Opening next weekend, then? I'll be ready for you. I'll be ready if you will. Just got to put the signs out on the road and let the bank know to build a bigger vault to hold all the money. Paula planted her hands on her hips. Sure, we'll be lucky to clear enough to pay for those horses. He leaned over and kissed her. Keep the faith, baby. The scarecrows all done? Scarecrows. Yep, done, as they're gonna be. Next time you're over that way, stop in the thrift store and get a few extra shirts. If we get much rain, might have to replace some of their clothes. Mason, are you sure it's a good idea? Putting them out in the open like that? He lightly dragged his fingers up and down her back. We're not having this conversation again this year. I know, but it seems like the more of them you put out, the more likely it is nobody is looking. And if they are, we'll follow the plan. We both know that sooner or later, my part in this is going to end, right? What's done is done, and we can't change it. All we can do is enjoy what we have. No matter what, you and the boys are protected. Doesn't mean I don't worry about it. He laughed and mussed her hair. You wouldn't be the woman I married if you didn't. Now, best get to work. Both of us. This farm's not going to run itself. And if it'll make you feel better, I'll double check the old barn. Make sure everything's ready. Just in case. She kissed his chest. You don't have to do that, but I wouldn't mind if you did. He let his fingers dance on her back again. That's my girl. Chapter 45. Day 3 of the pumpkin patch festivities, and things were going off without a hitch. Borrowing the horses from the neighbor proved to be a huge hit on the hayride, although the realism could be a bit smelly at times. Paula had already ordered a second truckload of pumpkins, and the weather had turned breezy and brisk with no rain in the forecast. The sun crept toward the west, and in another 3 hours, it would be dark enough to start charging extra for the corn maze. A few families meandered through it now, but the real crowds came out once the sun set. That's when the fun began. The guides dressed up as zombies or some other creature of the night and wandered in their assigned areas. Mason had strict rules regarding their behavior and had fired the Palmer kid on the first night for getting too close to a guest and then mouthing off about it. The safety of everyone in the farm was paramount. These were his friends and neighbors. Sure, he needed to make money, but not at the expense of damaging relationships in the community. He patted his pocket to make sure his cell phone was there and climbed onto his John Deere lawn tractor. Last year, he'd run out of gas in the middle of the maze and had to walk back to the new barn for more. Not a mistake he wanted to repeat. A box of AAA batteries and other supplies sat in the tow behind the trailer. The LEDs in the skulls needed to be replaced, and no one touched the scarecrows except him or, on occasion, Paula. Rule number 1. The maze's entrance sign was starting to look a little worse for the wear. He'd have the boys touch it up a bit tomorrow. Next to the sign was an overhead photo of the maze taken by a crop duster, blown up to a poster size for easier viewing. Each year, the design became more involved as Mason and the boys progressed in their skills. This Halloween, they've opted for a clown's head, complete with bulbous nose and wild hair. Enter through the left ear, eventually exiting through the right. 10 yards in came the first decision for guests: left or right. Mason could run through it blindfolded, but he had to check out all the dead ends and twists anyway. Scarecrows, pumpkins, ghosts, and all manner of eerie things were spread throughout. Even on the tractor, it would take him a good hour and a half to get through the whole thing with the stops he had to make. The corn was dry and dark, and the roughness of the brown stalks rubbing against each other in the wind only heightened the spookiness. The decorations seemed to be in good shape, save one pumpkin that someone, probably a teenager, had decided to bust. Boys will be boys. As he approached the clown's right eye, a flash of red off to the left caught his attention. He climbed off the tractor and walked back to check it out. An Atlanta Braves baseball cap. Poor Sarah must have lost it last night. He picked up the hat, tossed it in the trailer, and motored off to return it to its proper location just around the next turn. Even with the polyurethane and plastic, Mason didn't like leaving the skulls exposed to the sun for too long. They needed to last a lifetime. He rounded the corner and smiled at nothing. Sarah was gone. Mason's scalp tingled and ice flowed through his chest. He sat staring and unbelieving at the wooden cross before him. Her jeans had fallen to the ground. The unstuffed shirt had hung on the crossbeam and fluttered in the breeze. The dull gray duct tape atop the 2x2 pointed upward as if Sarah had somehow gone there. Hay bales had been dragged over and stacked, forming steps to what remained of the scarecrow. Paula needed to know. He pulled the phone from his pocket, paused, and replaced it. Not yet. Don't panic. Sarah's here somewhere. Just a prank. That's it. Someone hid her in the corn, probably the same boy who busted the pumpkin. His body shivered as a chill raced down his spine. He stepped off the John Deere and brushed his palm across his forehead. She's here. She has to be here. He patrolled the clown's eye's perimeter, searching for any sign of that the corn had been disturbed. Nothing. She could have been tossed back in there, though. A sudden wave of heat exploded from his chest into his face, thrown like trash, unwanted. Who would do such a thing to his Sarah? He'd find out. And when he did, "Hi, Mr. Miller." Mason swung around, The Kelly family, Dad, Mom, and Amy. He swallowed hard and forced a smile. Well, hello there, Amy. Are you having fun? Yeah. Mrs. Kelly whispered to her daughter, and the little girl frowned before speaking again. I mean, yes, sir. I'm glad. Are you showing your mom and dad the way through the maze? I'm trying, but it's hard and my legs hurt. Daddy said he'd carry me in a minute. Amy's dad rolled his eyes and shook his head. Mason glanced back at the lonely cross. You don't have too much further to go. Mrs. Kelly nodded toward the vacant wooden structure. Problem? Mason rocked on his feet, one hand behind his back clenched into a fist. Nah, just doing some maintenance. Changing batteries, things like that. We won't keep you then, she said. And thank you for doing this every year. I know the kids really enjoy it. Yes, ma'am. My pleasure. His heart's pounding reverberated through his ears. Amy turned to her dad and stretched her arms upward. Carry me, Daddy! Mr. Kelly picked up his daughter and slung her over his shoulder. Okay, Munchkin. Which way next? Mason waited until he could no longer hear them and moved into the corn. He made several passages, each time moving the ark further out, doing his best not to disturb the stalks. No one else had traipsed through here. He was sure of that. No signs of Sarah. Who? Why? Calm. Keep it together. He dialed Paula and gave her the news. Not good. Not good at all. Tidy up the area, she'd said. Put the clothes back together and stuff them with hay. Make it look like it was supposed to be that way. They'd figure it out. Just stay calm. Easier said than done. When he caught whoever taken his Sarah, he'd show them what it meant to steal from Mason Miller. Chapter 46. Mason couldn't stop moving. Kitchen sink to living room, sofa to bathroom. He'd already thrown up twice. Sarah was out there. Alone. Paula patted the couch. Honey, will you please sit down? What are we going to do? She walked to him and squeezed his hands in hers. You're shaking, baby. Let me get you something that'll help you relax. He jerked his hands away. No, no drugs. I've got to focus. Think. It's just some kids playing a prank. We'll find her, I promise. But we have to keep going. Like nothing's happened, Mason. Do you hear me? Like nothing's happened. He stretched and yawned violently, forcing as much tension as possible from his body. How do we do that? What if the police have her? Paula pointed at his recliner. Sit. Baby, I don't... Sit. Now. I mean it. He trudged to the worn leather chair and sank into it. The seat's padding long ago having conformed to his body. Paula reached down and pulled the lever to raise the footrest, then moved behind him. Close your eyes. She rubbed her fingers across his temples, massaging tiny circles one way, then the other. We'll get through this. We always do. Mason grabbed her hand. We always do? Nothing like this has happened. It's bad, Paula. Bad. Yeah, I know it is. We'll find her, baby, I promise. He took a series of deep breaths, holding each before slowly blowing out. You say that, but you can't know. Not for sure. She's out there somewhere. No family around her. Wishing she was home. Well, let's think about this for a minute. We can be sure the police don't have it. I mean, her. We can? Well, they couldn't have taken her without a warrant, right? And if someone had given Sarah to them, don't you think they'd have been here by now? He turned to look at her. Probably. So, isn't it more likely some kids took her? Maybe. I know some of the boys around here got no respect for other folks' property. Paula kissed the top of his head. Oh, honey, has it been that long since you were a boy? I'm sure you never did anything like that around Halloween, now did you? He chuckled. Did I ever tell you about the time me and Johnny Overstein snuck into old man Smithson's barn? She leaned close to his ear. At least a dozen times. I can't just sit around waiting, Paula. I know you can't. We'll find her. But we need to be smart about it. First things first, though. What are we going to do to protect the others? Mason stood, placed his hands on his hips, and arched his back. The chair might be comfortable, but its back support had become sorely lacking over the years. I'll get with the guides and station one of them next to each scarecrow. Let them know one is missing and to keep their eyes open. How about dangling some cash in front of them? Tell everyone there's a reward for the safe return of the, decoration. Good idea. Wouldn't surprise me if they know who took it. Kids like to brag about stuff like that. And we've got a good group this year. Except for that... What is it, Mason? He stared off into space, his mind churning. The Palmer kid. What's his name? Lanny. What about him? I fired him, remember? He got too close to some of the customers, girls from high school, and smarted off to me when I talked to him about it. And you think he took Sarah? Wouldn't put it past him, that's for sure. Well, maybe he did, and maybe he didn't. The important thing is to act like it's no big deal. Show too much concern, and people will start to wonder. Can't have that now, can we? Every family has secrets, and ours are, well, a little more dangerous than others, I suppose. I know that. Everything I do is for this family and our farm. I'm not going to risk anything. She smiled at him. You'd better not. I don't know what I'd do without you. Find somebody better, probably. Mason wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her to him. Love you, baby. She glanced up and grinned and rolled her eyes. Love you too, though for the life of me, I can't imagine why. He'd get through the night, keep a smile on his face. Thank the customers for coming. Make sure no one went missing. But tomorrow morning, he'd take a little drive. Lanny Palmer needed a stern talking to. And maybe something more. Chapter 47. The Palmer kid's house sat alone on a back road about 3 miles from Mason's farm. It was a school morning, so the boy would be heading to the end of the road to catch the bus soon. Mason parked at the intersection and waited. Paula had wrapped up a hot sausage and biscuit to give Lanny as a peace offering. She knew boys. Just talk, that's the plan. Tell him he can have his job back as long as he behaves. The boy's 14, probably going on 15 soon. He needs to learn respect. Follow the rules. If his own daddy couldn't teach him that, it was Mason's duty to set up and do the neighborly thing. A foggy mist hung low over the fields along the dirt road. Likely some deer moving around, though he didn't see any. Another couple of months, though, it'd be a different story. Hunting season would open again. After a few minutes, Mason spotted the boy heading his way. He got out of his truck, leaned against the hood, and waved. Lanny slowed for a moment before returning the wave and walking toward the vehicle. Morning. Morning, Lanny. Brought you some breakfast. Paula fixed it up fresh a bit ago. The boy glanced around before taking the biscuit and biting into it. Thanks, Mr. Miller. Mason crossed his arms. Sure. Listen, I've been thinking, and I'm real sorry about things happened back in the maze. Now, don't get me wrong here. You should have never got that close to those people, and you sure shouldn't have mouthed off to me. But Paula reminded me what I was like when I was your age, and, well, let's just say I was reminded of a few times I stepped out of line too. Lanny cocked his head and started to respond, then looked down at the ground without speaking. Mason patted him on the shoulder. Tell you what, how about we both chalk it up to a lesson learned? I could use some more help back at the maze if you're willing. The boy shrugged. I don't know. Maybe, I guess. Of course, you'd have to follow the rules. Think you can do that? Lanny nodded slightly. Well then, consider yourself rehired. Can you be there tonight? Always big crowds on Fridays, and we can use all the help we can get. Yeah, I'll be there, Mr. Miller. Mason smiled. Great. I'm glad we cleared that up. Don't want any bad blood between us. You're a good kid, Lanny. The boy shuffled his feet, and his lips turned up slightly. Thanks, Mr. Miller. I mean every word of it. Start with a clean slate, I say. Now, is there anything you want to tell me? I'm sorry? For not following the rules? And what else? Mason twisted his head in as tension built in his neck. Well, I thought you might know something about one of our, decorations going missing. Lanny licked his lips and his eyes shifted left to right. I don't know anything about that, Mr. Miller. No? Are you sure? Yes, sir. Mason took a deep breath. Stay calm. Don't scare the boy. Do the right thing, Lanny. I won't be mad. Just tell me where she is. The youth scrunched his face and took a step back. Who? No more games, Lanny. Where is Sarah? I don't know anybody named Sarah, Mr. Miller, honest. Mason placed a hand on each of the boys' shoulders. I want you to listen to me very carefully, Lanny. Where is Sarah? The young man's eyes widened. I told you, I don't know enough. Tell you what, hop in and I'll take you to school. We can talk about it on the way. I don't know. Maybe I should let my mom know or something? Mason shrugged. Up to you. I've got one more biscuit in the truck, though. Split it with you? The boy glanced over his shoulder toward home, then opened the truck door. Can't be late, though. We'll make it in plenty of time. You can bet the farm on it. Chapter 48. The kerosene lantern sputtered, and Mason switched it off and flipped on the fluorescence. Didn't need the lamp's smells down in the storm cellar anyhow. The room kept its musty silence save for the humming and sporadic shudder of the old chest freezer. The boy slumped on the floor, his back resting against the wood corner post. His hands were tied behind the beam, but his legs remained free, and Mason paused to examine the new scrapes on the dirt floor. The boy had struggled before giving in to exhaustion and falling asleep. Mason hovered over him and lifted the youngster's chin. Time to wake up, Lenny. The youngster licked his lips and squinted into the light. Tear streaks scarred his filthy face, and he stammered when he spoke. Don't know her. Mason leaned and checked the knots on the nylon rope that held the boy's hands together, then dragged a stool over and sat in front of the boy. We'll get to that in a minute. You feeling okay? Rope's not too tight? Don't want to cut off the circulation. Thirsty. Sure, sure. Thought you might be. Got you some water right here. He held a straw to Lanny's mouth and waited until the drink was gone. Why are you doing this, Mr. Miller? In the 2 days of confinement, the bravado of a young man had given way to the fear of a boy. Need to go to the bathroom? I brought the bucket. The youth sniffled, and a tear rolled down his face. I don't know her. I'd tell you if I did. You know I would. Mason scooted the stool closer. Shh, 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 shh. It's okay. I know you would, son. I know you would. But see, Sarah's special to me. Right now, nothing's more important than finding her. I need you to really think hard. Focus. Hi, Bella. Oh, side quests. Did they prove useful? Or successful? Did you get the loot? Wonderful. How are you doing today, Bella? Got some great stuff. Oh, a Facebook Marketplace and a Goodwill. So doing great. How's everyone? Oh, I'm doing pretty good. Ugh. Thank you for the daily dab. What does she look like? Thank you. That's because a corn maze is a very specific and important part of this particular book, and I wanted to capture that in the fun scene that I built. Mason patted the young man's shoulder. I'm tired, Lanny. Really tired. Listen very closely. The skull. You took it. I know you did. Tell me where she is and all this ends. I just want her back. That's all. No hard feelings. Skull? One of the decorations? I didn't do nothing with them. Honest, Mr. Miller. All this is about one of those toys? I don't Mason stood and grabbed a lantern. She's not a toy. You took her, and I want her back. I'll be back in a little while, and then we'll finish up. I can go home then? That all depends on what you have to tell me. I need you to think real hard, Lanny. I'm gonna take the lantern, because a man does his best remembering in the dark. Besides, I've always wondered about something, and maybe you can clear it up for me. Those green and red tubs over there? See 'em? When it's all dark and quiet down here, you ever hear any noises from them? Maybe scratching sounds or chewing? See you soon, Lanny. Be ready. Chapter 49. Wind's picking up again. Coming out of the north. Gonna be a cold one. Mason stared out the kitchen window, snacking on cornbread left over from last night's dinner. Paula stood beside him and gestured toward his coffee mug. Need some more? No thanks. Too much caffeine already today. You check on the boy? Mason nodded. Nothing new. Probably needs another day or two to think about it. Have you thought about where this ends? What do you mean? With Lanny. What happens after you're, done with him? Maybe he knows where Sarah is. Maybe he doesn't. Either way, at some point you'll have to make a decision about him. Been 2 days already, and the county's crawling with police. Sooner or later, one of them will stop by here. Can't keep a man in the cellar forever. He's a kid, Paula. She scratched her hand across his back. He is, but you know he's barely 2 years younger than Sarah was, right? Yeah, but 14 years old. She leaned closer and lowered her voice. Almost 15. He sighed and sat his coffee on the counter. I know, but... No buts. I've never once complained about your activities. Even helped when you asked. But no matter how this turns out, that boy's a threat to this family. We both know it. He said he wouldn't tell anyone. You believe that? He shook his head. Maybe for a while, but sooner or later he'll talk. Yep, he will. Then they'll come take you away. Me too, probably. The boys will end up in some foster home. The state might even separate them. Is that what you want, Mason? Your boys raised by strangers? Your farm sold off to some foreign company? He pressed his lips together. I'm not gonna let that happen. I'll take care of Lanny. No need in you worrying about it. What does that mean? Take care of him how? He caressed her chin and lifted her face toward him. It means I know what I have to do. She wrapped her arms around him and pulled. You take such good care of us. Better or worse till death us part. And whatever else you tricked me into saying. She snuggled her head under his chin. I'm pretty sure it was you who chased me, but you can believe whatever you want to believe. They stood for a moment, staring out the window as the wind gusts moved across the corn maze like ocean waves. Such tranquility came at a price, but it was worth every penny, every bead of sweat, and every drop of blood, his and others. His land was worth protecting, no matter the cost. He hugged Paula before heading for the door. Tell the boys to check the maze good. Saturday night, this close to Halloween, we'll have a big crowd. And tell Andy to make sure the four-wheeler's full of gas. He'll be running heated water out to you all night. I reckon you might have your hands full making hot chocolate. Want me to get you some help out there? And share my tips? I don't think so, mister. I work hard for my money. I know you do, babe. He grabbed another piece of cornbread, pulled on his denim jacket, and yanked his cap down low. I'll be in the storm cellar if you need me. Paula glanced at the clock. Lunch at noon. Don't be late. Yes, ma'am. Mason winked at her and headed for the barn. Chapter 50. Mason sat on the floor next to Lanny. I bet you're hungry. Huh. Brought you some cornbread. Nobody makes it like Paula does. Cast iron skillet, extra butter. Better than birthday cake. We'll get to that in a minute, though. Wanted to see if you'd remembered anything. The boy sifted on the floor. What's in the tubs, Mr. Miller? I thought I heard scratching this time. I swear I did. Nothing you need to worry about. I was just messing with you. Trying to spook you a little, so you'd loosen up and tell me what you did with Sarah. The boy's chin quivered, and he fixed his gaze on the ground between his legs. I can't feel my arms and legs anymore, Mr. Miller. Getting tired of his whining. I'm sorry, son. I should have thought of that. They fell asleep, that's all. I'm going to untie you in a minute and let you get up and stretch. You've got to promise not to leave until you tell me where she is, though. Agreed? Lanny sniffed. I don't know. I swear it. I'll help you find her, though. Promise I will. I'll ask around at school. Somebody'll tell me. They always do. Mason pulled out his pocket knife, examined the blade, and began scratching lines in the dirt. Don't have much tolerance for thieves. Never have. I remember the time somebody cheated me out of a deer. I'd been stalking that thing all morning, and then, bam! Some idiot spooked it. All I saw was a white tail bouncing into the trees. Gone. Taken from me. The boy tried to push his back deeper into the beam. What are you going to do with that knife, Mr. Miller? Mason etched the ground closer to the boy. I haven't decided yet. That's up to you, I suppose. But I told you I don't... You've gutted a deer before, right? Lanny tried to inhale the snot dripping from his nose. Yeah? Mason held up his knife. Of course, you wouldn't use something like this. Too small. It might slip in your hands. Not to mention, make it tough to cut through some of the skin and muscle. Yeah, there's nothing like making that thin slice through the skin. Then he flicked the blade within millimeters of the boy's stomach. Lanny screamed and tried to jerk back, but couldn't move. He might have said something, but it was hard to tell with all his yelling and crying. Mason scooted closer. Then you peel that skin back and cut through the muscle. Got to be careful though, right? You ever puncture the stomach or intestines? That'll ruin your day for sure. The boy's swollen eyes looked desperately around the room, and a strong odor of urine soaked the air. Lanny, did you just wet your pants? Now why would you go and do something like that? Word of it gets out, you'll never hear the end of it. You hear what I'm telling you? This will be our secret, okay? Keep your mouth shut about all this, and I'll keep your secret too. His whimpering slowed, and he looked at Mason. You're gonna let me go? I told you I would, didn't I? Just wanted to make sure you were telling the truth, that's all. I'll drop you off somewhere and you can walk home. Tell everybody you've been hiding in the woods this whole time. I bet you got plenty of good hiding spots, don't you? Some. Good. Make up a story like you didn't want to go to school, or were mad at your parents. Stick to it. No one will be the wiser. Do we have a deal? Yes, sir. Mason leaned behind the boy and cut the rope, binding his wrists. I'm sorry all this had to happen, but you understand. Here, let me help you up. Mason dragged the stool over and helped Lanny onto it. Sit there for a minute until you get a good feeling back in your legs. Don't want you falling off the ladder, do we? Lanny dragged his arm under his nose. No, sir. I won't tell nobody, I swear. I believe you, son. You ready to go home? He pushed himself off the stool. Yes, sir. Good, good. Head up that ladder, then. The boy was on the second rung when the shovel struck the back of his head. Mason tried to judge the impact needed to kill, or at least stun Lanny without damaging his skull. He bent over the fallen body and inspected his work. Blood matted the teenager's hair, and the boy wasn't breathing. Mason squatted and caressed the back of Lanny's head, grimacing when he felt the flattened section. He'd hit too hard. Still, the damage was in the back. The recognizable parts, the eye sockets, jaw, and so on, would be fine. He grabbed a bottle of water off the shelf and guzzled half of it. Paula's cornbread sure did make him thirsty. Chapter 51. Mason stood a couple of feet inside the tree line and scanned for any signs of movement. Off to the left, his pickup truck sat parked next to the Forked Deer River. Just another guy fishing on a crisp October morning. Or maybe scouting out a spot for his deer stand. Ahead, an opening in the woods allowed high power lines through. To his right, more trees. Getting here had been easier than he expected. No neighbors flagged him down to talk about the weather or the boy or politics. State Road 188 did have more traffic than usual, though doubtless folks headed to help in the search for Lenny Palmer. Mason knew better than to show up with the crowd. Returning to the scene of the crime was never a good idea. Besides, he had a good excuse if anyone asked. Keeping the pumpkin patch up and running took all his time, and folks insisted he keep it open. Law enforcement had focused their search in the area around Lanny's home. On the record, the police said the boy's parents were not suspects, but some of Mason's neighbors were starting to whisper. Things like this didn't happen around here. Off 188, a dirt road paralleled the Forked Deer to the northwest. Mason and his boys had been fishing up here many times. Cane pole and a red-white bobber. The same way his father taught him. The best way for kids to learn. He considered leaving Lanny's body in the river, but couldn't do it. The boy may be a thief and a liar, but he still deserved a decent burial. The thought of leaving him in the water where all kinds of critters could get to him was too much. He carried the corpse a few feet into the woods and chose a spot under a mid-sized oak. With no time for the usual process, the boy would get to a traditional burial. Minus the skull and hands, of course. The ground was soft due to years of decomposition, and he dug a hole without much effort. Round 2 feet deep, so no animals would smell him and try to dig him up. He rested the shovel against the oak and debated saying a prayer before covering the body. No need. Plenty of prayers being said already. Besides, it's not like Lanny was really gone. In a few weeks, there he'd be, dressed in garb from the local thrift store, hanging around in the cellar. Well, part of him anyway. A companion for Mason, someone to talk to while he worked down there. A touch of sadness closed around his heart. He and Paula had agreed the boy could never come out again. Too risky to put him in the corn maze, as if anyone would recognize him from a skull. 14-year-olds. No hope of going outside and watching as friends and neighbors wandered around him in the maze. Didn't seem right. They may need to revisit that decision next Halloween. Chapter 52. Where you been, Dad? Andy clamored into the bed of the truck. Mason scooped up his son and kissed his cheek. Had to make a run to the dump. Lucas stood on the pickup's bumper and peered into the vehicle's bed. Aw, man, why didn't you take us? I should've. Need to get even with you boys. If I remember right, last time Lucas tossed the trash the farthest. Andy wriggled down from his father's arms. No way, Dad. I won. Remember? Mason winked at Lucas. You might be right. We'll call it a tie. How's that? Andy crossed his arms and frowned. Lucas winked back at his dad. No, Andy beat me. Just barely, though. Even a blind hog finds an acorn once in a while, right, Dad? Sure enough, you boys got everything ready for tonight? Yes, sir, Andy said. The four-wheeler's full. And I checked the maze. Still got to put the new batteries in a bunch of flashlights, though. Better get on that, Mason said. How about out front in the pumpkin patch? Lucas motioned toward the field. It's pretty full. I put some more big ones out, but we've probably got enough to get us through another week at least. Great. Anything else? Lucas jumped off the truck. Dad, can I talk to you? Sure. What's up? The boy cut his eyes toward the younger brother. I need to, Andy, run and tell your mom we'll be ready for lunch in a few minutes, Mason said. Lucas waited until his brother left, then continued. All this stuff that's going on now, some of the kids were talking. I mean, about what might have happened to Lanny. Everybody at school's kind of freaked out. Well, they should be. Listen, you boys need to watch out for each other. Like your mom and I said, don't go anywhere alone for a while. At least not until they find Lanny. I'm counting on you to keep an eye on Andy. Yeah, I know, Dad, but what if they don't find him? Mason squatted and placed his hands on his son's shoulders. We need to pray they will. But if they don't, if something bad happened to him, they'll get whoever did it. They always do. Always? Of course. Listen, the point here is to be careful, but not afraid. You can't go through life scared. That's no way to live. There's plenty of police around, and if someone did take him, he'd be an idiot to try it again. He pulled Lucas to his chest and embraced him. Thanks, Dad. I was just worried for Andy. Mason stood and straightened Lucas's ball cap. Of course. That's what brothers are for. Now then, what say we go see what your mother's got going for lunch? I'm hungry as a horse. You? Starving. Mason laughed. Now that's no surprise. I swear, you boys can eat like nobody's business. And I still see your ribs poking through. Need to put some meat on those bones. Either that, or use you for scarecrows. Oh, Dad? I think I know who took the one that's missing from the maze. Mason's stomach tensed. What? Who? One of the boys in 8th grade, Carson something. But everyone calls him Fishy. I don't know him, but a couple of kids told me he was showing them pictures of a skull on his phone. He said it was Lanny, but everyone knows it's not. They said it looks like plastic, but it's just the head. Mason bit the inside of his cheek. All that time wasted on the Palmer boy. Appreciate you telling me, Lucas. I'll check it out. If Carson did take the decoration, I'm sure it's just a prank. No harm done, long as I get it back. Want me to ask him at school on Monday? I really don't want to wait that long. I reckon we'll have a big crowd tonight, and I'd sure enough like to have the maze looking perfect. Tell you what, think you can call around, find out the boy's last name for me? Sure. Then I'll track him down from that. With all the police around, I'm certain he'll be happy to give it back. Let bygones be bygones. I can probably find out his phone number if you want. I'll call him and tell him to bring it back before he gets in trouble. No, that's all right. You've got enough to do to get ready for tonight. I'll handle it myself. Now then, race you to lunch? The boy sprinted away, laughing and yelling, as his father fell far behind. You're not even trying, Dad. Bet you can't catch me. Catch him. If there was one thing he was good at, that was it. Catching people. Fishy would learn soon enough. Chapter 53. Mason knocked on the door of the brick ranch-style home. Carson Andrews said he'd be there alone this morning, having feigned illness while his parents went off to work. The door swung open, and a boy about Lanny's age stood there. A bright red birthmark on his left forearm vaguely resembled a dolphin, and explained his nickname of Fishy. "Hey, Mr. Miller." "Sup?" Mason smiled and shook the boy's hand. "You're Fishy, I assume?" "Yeah, I'm real sorry about all this. I was just goofing off. Didn't mean to cause no problems." He could at least put his ball cap on straight and put on a belt. "Hey, I was young once too, and I made more than my share of mistakes. Like I said on the phone, though, it's what you do to make things right that shows what kind of person you are. And this is just between us? You won't say anything to my folks, right? I got enough problems with them already." "I bet you do." Mason lowered his voice. "My lips are sealed. A deal's a deal, right? Did you tell anyone I was coming by this morning?" "Nah, man, it's all good." "Great. Now, if you'll give me the, decoration, I'll be on my way like this all never happened." Fishy rolled his eyes. "Dude, seriously, I already tossed it. Got too hot, you know? Once word got around school, didn't want to leave it here. Like, my mom goes through my stuff all the time. Thinks I'm on weed or something." Mason inhaled and clenched his fists as a wave of heat rushed through his head. "Okay. Where is she?" "She?" "The skull. Where's the skull?" Fishy pointed towards the woods about a half-mile down the road. "Took it down there. Shouldn't take you too long to find it." Mason looked around. A few vehicles had passed while he stood on the porch. No way to know if anyone noticed him here. "You're going with me." "Dude, I've got stuff to do." "Listen, dude. Either go with me, or we wait for your folks. I bet your dad would be thrilled to know you tried to sell drugs to my boys." "Man, I don't sell that stuff." "Really? Well, it'd be your word against mine. But I guess you know your folks better than I do." Fishy nodded towards the truck. "Come on, but you need to make it quick." As they arrived at the stand of trees, the boy motioned for him to pull over. "Back there's where I left it." The two walked a few steps into the woods, shuffling through a layer of maple oak and tulip poplar leaves. Mason didn't like thinking about Sarah lying among the dirt and insects. No big deal, though. When he got home, he'd clean her up good. A soft towel for the outside and an old toothbrush to tidy up the teeth and inside. No harm done. "Be careful not to step on the skull," Mason said. "They're not that expensive, but it takes a while to get a replacement." Fishy squatted and brushed away fallen debris. "It's over here, man. It looks pretty creepy laying out here." "Awesome." Mason's grin vanished as a chill shot down his spine. "The jawbone." "Where's the jawbone?" Fishy shrugged. "Gotta be close. It was there when I threw it back here." "Threw it? You threw her back here? What's the big deal? Buy another one." Nausea flashed through Mason. "Buy another one? She's broken, Fishy. Broken." "Sorry, man. Don't know what to tell ya." Mason lifted the skull and cradled it in the crook of his arm. Maybe the pins holding the jaw to the cranium broke when she hit the ground. The mandibles here somewhere. Got to be. And if it's broken, He knelt and moved his hand through the decomposing foliage in the ever-growing circles. Did you tell anyone where you put the skull? The boy shook his head. Nah, probably a coyote or something took it. Think. Be absolutely sure. Didn't tell nobody. Was that possible? Could an animal smell bones even after they were coated in polyurethane? Then sealed in plastic? Maybe. And these bones hadn't been cooked. Any marrow inside could still be pungent and edible. And there were certainly plenty of stray dogs and other creatures around. If the mandible was gone, how would he find it? The answer is simple. He wouldn't. Sarah would forever be missing her jaw. His eyes watered, and he swallowed hard. No way to fix this. And the reason for his grief stood before him. Sorry, man. Not my fault, though. What? Mason squinted at Fishy. Not your fault? Then whose fault is it, idiot? He grabbed the boy's arms, squeezing hard before pulling him toward the road. Fishy licked his lips and wrinkles covered his forehead. Chill, dude. Give me a couple days and I can come up with some money. It cost $5, $10, right? No sweat. A horn honked as a vehicle neared. Mason stopped, a smile frozen on his face as one of the neighbors drove past and waved. Mason yanked open the pickup's passenger door. It's your lucky day, Fishy. Chapter 54. Jeremy flicked through the channels on the TV in his hotel room. Sunday afternoon in early October. A couple of NFL games to choose from, which would be great if he cared for football. Hockey season started later this week, but even if it was already going, none of the games would be broadcasted in Memphis. Not exactly a rabid NHL fan base. He'd scheduled a call with Director Bailey for 10 o'clock the next day. Time to finalize everything and move on. Take a few weeks to figure out what he wanted to do next. Maybe become a security consultant for businesses. Or get his private investigator's license. Or go for something completely different. Buy a food truck and drive around town selling homemade chicken salad sandwiches and tacos. Everybody loves tacos. He didn't know what he'd do, but he did know where he'd do it. Somewhere close to Maggie and Rebecca. Past time to pick up the pace of their relationship, and Maggie had made it clear she felt the same way. Absence may make the heart grow fonder, but you can't hold hands via Skype. He glanced at the digital clock beside the unmade bed. Less than an hour since he talked to her for the fourth time that day. He sighed and made the complete cycle of the TV stations again, muted the volume and dialed her number. The ringing buzz of his cell phone awakened Jeremy from a deep sleep. Something's happened to Maggie or Rebecca. He took 2 measured breaths to gain focus and slow his heart, then checked the time, 11 o'clock. He snatched the phone off the nightstand and peered at the illuminated screen. Troy Obian? He cleared his throat, determined to sound awake. Hey, Troy. What's up? Sorry to wake you, Jeremy. Huh? I was up, just cleaning out some emails before tomorrow morning. Sure you were. Don't know why you can't admit you were sleeping. People do that, you know. Sleep. Nothing wrong with it. I'm gonna have to take the Fifth Amendment on that one. What are you doing up this late? Late? It's barely 11. Anyway, I've been spending some vacation days helping with the search for the Palmer boy, and I thought you'd want to hear we had a break. The TBI got a call, which is the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. TBI got a call a few hours ago from a farmer up in the Friendship area. Said a pack of dogs was stalking around his chickens, so he grabbed his shotgun and fired off a couple rounds. At the dogs? In the air. Didn't want to hit his chickens. Anyway, the pack tucked tail and ran. The farmer went to count his chickens and see if he lost any. He didn't, but he found something the dogs dropped. Part of a human jawbone. Jeremy bolted upright. Did it belong to the boy? Well, that's the thing. At first, they weren't even sure it was real. Pretty chewed up by the dogs, and the bone had been coated in plastic or something. The TBI's still testing it, but they're almost positive it's genuine. Not me, Chimkins! Protect the little nuggets at all costs! Jeremy flopped back onto his pillow. DNA or dental records? The part of the bone they have isn't the jaw. I mean, it is, but not the part with the teeth. They told me what it was called, ramus or something like that, but not enough of anything for dental records to help. Be later tomorrow before the preliminary DNA results are in. Could even be Tuesday morning. That's kind of the reason I'm calling. You want access to the FBI's testing? Honestly, it's not much faster. Maybe not the standardized tests. You talking about the rapid DNA machines? Troy, those aren't approved yet. Certainly not admissible as evidence. I'm not even sure Memphis has one. The Bureau hasn't bought any as far as I know. There were some floating around for demos, but it'd be a pretty big coincidence if we got one locally. Can you find out? It could save us a lot of time. Jeremy sighed. Troy, even if there is a machine here, those things can't detect mingled DNA. I'd have to get a pure sample. No dog slobber or anything else that would contaminate the specimen. Most likely be a waste of time. Maybe, but I'm asking. Can you at least find out if there's one of those machines anywhere close to Memphis? If there's not, then we don't have to worry about it. But if there is, I'll make a call, Troy. But don't hold your breath. Even if I find one, can you talk the TBI into handing over a sample? You forget who you're talking to here. Give me half an hour. You're not going to fall back asleep, are you? Told you, I wasn't sleeping. Talk to you in a few. Okay, chapter 55. After several phone calls, Jeremy learned that yes, the Memphis FBI office had tested a rapid DNA machine, but no, they didn't still have the unit. Lester Truitt, the special agent in charge, raved about its possibilities, but only in limited situations. His concerns were more procedural than technical in nature. He feared it could become easy for investigators to rely too heavily on DNA evidence without doing the legwork to back it up. Got half a dozen suspects, swab them, and in 90 minutes, voila! Suspect confirmed or eliminated. Of course, a court order would be needed if the suspect wouldn't provide a voluntary sample, but if you knew the right judge, it'd happen. Truitt had sent the machine to the Little Rock office about 140 miles away. After a three-way phone conversation with the head of the Arkansas FBI office, it'd been agreed that if a sample from the jawbone could be obtained, it would be sent there for testing to save time. Bringing the machine back to Memphis would require an additional 2 hours for breakdown and setup, and no one was eager to process the paperwork that went along with transferring the device. At 2 a.m., Troy called back to confirm he'd been able to secure a sample within the hour. The TBI lab would extract marrow and provide it with no guarantee as to its viability. All parties understood any information obtained as a result of this test would never be admissible in court. Troy would pick up Jeremy at his hotel at 3:30 for the bumpy ride on I-40 to Little Rock. Bearing no traffic or construction, they'd be there and have the test underway no later than 6 a.m., with results due by 9 o'clock. 10 minutes early, Troy's red Jeep Wrangler pulled in front of the hotel. Its oversized tires and high chassis promised a rough trip, but at least he'd put the hardtop on. Jeremy grabbed 2 cups of coffee from the urn in the lobby and braced himself against the wind as he moved from indoors to out. Gonna be another cold, dry day. "Morning, old man," Troy said. "Hate to say it, but you definitely didn't get your beauty sleep last night. Appreciate the coffee, though." "Oh, I suppose I could have brought you a cup, too. Sorry." "Ha ha, I take it back. You look wonderful." Jeremy handed him the Java. "You got the DNA sample?" "Yep." What time's your guy going to open up in Little Rock?" "I told him I'd call when we were about 30 minutes out. He said he'd meet us at the office and have everything ready." Here's the thing, though. Apparently, the device is made to run off cheek swabs. We're kind of crossing our fingers this will work. Only one way to find out. The TBI said their results won't be back until late tonight. Worst case scenario, we make the hour-and-a-half drive for nothing. It's about 2 hours to Little Rock. Troy adjusted his rearview mirror and took a sip of coffee and slipped the Jeep into gear. Buckle up. Chapter 56. "Maybe we should shut everything down for the season," Paula said. "Say it's out of respect for the Palmer boy." Mason sat beside her on the porch, watching the clouds morph from gray to orange as the sun poked over the horizon. "What? Why? We've got an awful lot invested. If we closed now, we'd be worse off than when we started. Might as well stick a for sale sign out front." "I figure it's just a matter of time till the police come poking around here. They've been everywhere else. Might be best to put everything away out of sight." Mason placed his hand over hers. "And if we shut down, what does that look like? That we're hiding something? No, we stay open. It's the best thing for us and the community. And anyway, it's not like we've seen a drop-off in attendance. People need to forget their problems. Have some fun. And there's safety in numbers, right? Folks are glad to let their kids come out here and burn off some energy. Heck, they'd probably up in arms if we closed. Then we just keep going. I suppose it's for the best. I've run through this 100 times, and I can't see as how there's anything to connect us to Lanny. And you're sure about Fishy?" Mason chuckled. "Wish you could have seen him when I drove him home. Scared to death I was gonna come back when his parents got off work and make him tell them what he'd done. I don't think we need to worry about him." "You did the right thing, honey. Would have been trouble if you brought him back here. Since I was sane with the boy, didn't make any sense to take any chances. Got what I was after. Most of it, anyways. Besides, Fishy doesn't know where the rest of Sarah is. I'm sure of it." "What about the missing jaw?" "I'll go back once the sun gets up a bit and see if I can find it. If a critter did take the bones, they're long gone by now. Nothing to be done about it, except hope they're eaten or buried. Still, Lord knows I'd feel a whole lot better to know that jaw back, or to get that jaw back with Sarah where it belongs. Me too. Before you go out, why don't you stop in for coffee at the diner and get the latest gossip? Maybe you'll learn something new. Not likely. Bunch of crotchety old men sitting around complaining about everything from the government to their bunions. Always talking about the rain, too. Either how much we got or how much we need. Paula smiled. Uh-huh. That's why you fit in so well. He winked at her. Of course. The waitresses there are pretty nice. Well, if you can find one that'll put up with the likes of you, be my guest. I finally got you figured out. Don't need to start all over again. I'm gonna check on a few things around here and then head out. Probably skip the diner today and spend a little more time searching. I'll go tomorrow. She shrugged. Suit yourself. Want me to come look with you? The boys will be catching the school bus in about half an hour, and I can put off some of my chores until this afternoon. I wouldn't mind the company. Just got to promise to behave out there. Behave? Mason rested his hand on her leg and leaned closer. I seem to remember this one time we were out in the woods. Course, it might have been 20 years ago or so back, but I remember it clear as can be. If it wasn't for the poison ivy, would have been the perfect day. Her face reddened, and she lifted his hand and placed it on his own leg. I'm quite sure I don't know what you're talking about. I'm a lady. He kissed her cheek. Yes, you are. But be sure to check the first aid kit for calamine lotion before we go. Chapter 57. Troy stopped his pacing and plopped into the break room chair. Is it always like this? Hoping it is the kid's DNA while praying that it's not? Jeremy placed his hands on his hips and arched his back. The drive to Little Rock had been mercifully quick and painfully bouncy. Yeah, it is. Seems like for every bit of good news in this job, there is 100 bad pieces. Way of the world, I suppose. That's a tad cynical, isn't it? Danger of the job, and one of the reasons I'm ready to get out. I don't want to be that guy. The one always looking for the negative. Or maybe I'm already him and need something different. Can't keep a rosy outlook when you deal with this kind of stuff all the time. You had your out, though. Moving more into white-collar crime? Jeremy shook his head. I did. I don't know. Could be I'm an adrenaline junkie and I'll be bored to death when I leave, but chasing insurance scammers? Not for me. Heh. Try sitting by a state road for hours, hoping a speeder comes by just so you have something to do. Apply to the Bureau, Troy. Put me down as a recommendation. Seriously? I am. Looked over your resume and sent it in. I might have already mentioned your name to my boss, in fact. Troy drummed his fingers on the table. Can't say I haven't thought about it. No guarantees, but I'll do what I can for you. Not sure if that'll help or hurt, though. I'll look into it. I mean, if it gets me... Little Rock special agents in charge walked into the room, a sheet of paper in hand. Results are in. Troy licked his lips and exhaled. And? Not the boy. Jeremy frowned and nodded. 100% certainty? According to the machine, yes. Sample was clean. No contamination. When the TBI gets their official results back, they'll say the same thing. Well, Troy said, I'll make the call and give them a heads up. The Palmers will want to know. If it's not the boy, who is it? Jeremy asked. The agent traced his finger down the paper, ran it through the database. Missing girl out of Indiana. Sarah. Here it is. Sarah Goldman. Troy spun around, his mouth and eyes open as far as they'd stretch. Jeremy tried to speak, but no words came out for several heartbeats. Sarah Goldman? French Lick, Indiana? Yeah. How'd you know that? Let's go, Troy. We need to get back to Memphis, and I'm driving. Hanging in the background while I cook dinner. All right, well, welcome in, CJ. Nice to see you. Hope you're having a good Sunday. If it's dinner for you, then you're in a different time zone than myself, so I hope you've had a wonderful Sunday so far. Jeremy pressed the phone against his ear, dodging another 18-wheeler, and shot a blast of air through his nostrils. Yes, sir. I understand, but doesn't it seem a bit too coincidental? Sarah Goldman's body found in the same area as the Laney Palmer disappearance? Director Bailey sighed. The girl's killer is already sitting on death row. Remember? Assuming he's guilty. The jury certainly did. That's good enough. He wouldn't be the first innocent person convicted of a crime, and if he didn't kill Sarah Goldman, this is the first real break in the case, and it's ours now. Body transported across state lines and dumped conveniently close to the side of a missing boy. Couldn't it be coincidence? Sure, but if it's not, sir, do you want to risk letting a killer get away? Of course not. But I'm still not assigning anyone else to this. There's already a task force from the TBI and local PDs looking for the kid, right? What's the point of throwing more people in the same area? If they find something else, we'll go from there. If not, well, maybe this gives some closure to that girl's parents. Oh, 3:22, but it's a croc. Oh, I see. You're only an hour ahead of me then. Okay. Jeremy massaged his forehead. Sir, this isn't merely a bone. Someone went to a lot of trouble to preserve it. Sealed it in plastic. Why do that if you're just gonna dump it in the woods somewhere? It doesn't make sense. Bailey exhaled. I'll hold off your retirement paperwork for another few days. Get me more to work with, then we'll talk. End of discussion. Got it? Jeremy clenched his teeth. Understood. Oh, and sir, did you get that resume I sent? Troy Obion? The sound of papers shuffling filtered through the phone. Yeah, I got it. No promises and no favors, but I'll look it over. He meet the qualifiers? Jeremy glanced at Troy. Yes. College graduate, no problems passing the physical requirements, and nothing in his background as far as I know. Troy shook his head and pointed to a slow-moving U-Haul in the left lane. Okay, Bailey said. I think the online application period's open for the next 3 or 4 weeks. If he's serious, tell him to start there. We'll see what happens after that. But again, no promises. I'm not pulling any strings here. Either he gets in on his own merits, or he doesn't. Jeremy swerved around the rental truck. Wouldn't have it any other way, sir. Chapter 58. Troy stretched, yawned loudly, and took a sip from his Dr. Pepper. Jeremy leaned back in his office chair and resisted the urge to finish off his 5th cup of coffee. You doing okay there? not enough sleep, and the adrenaline rush from your NASCAR slalom back from the Little Rock is wearing off. I'll live, though. At least as long as I get to drive from now on. You do know I-40's a major interstate, don't you? The shoulder's not a passing lane. Yeah, but in that monster Jeep of yours, I'm not sure it makes much difference. And I'd say you drive like an old woman, if that wasn't such an insult to old women everywhere. Cut almost 20 minutes off your time, I believe. Of course, young as you are, I figure you're still using your learner's permit, right? Troy rolled his eyes and grinned. Mandatory driver retesting every 6 months once you reach your age, that's what I think. Well, I guess when you get old enough to vote, you can have a say in it. Har har. So what's our plan? Jeremy tapped his finger on the desk. Our plan? Nothing's changed. You're needed most on the Palmer case. Help them locate the boy, and when you do, if there's a connection to Sarah Goldman, we'll find it. In the meantime, I'll head out to where they've found the jawbone. See if anything there stirs up new ideas. You do think the cases are related though, right? No doubt in my mind. And if they are, then something happened to spook this guy. The Palmer boy's disappearance doesn't match his MO. Presumably taken off a public road while waiting for the school bus. That's risky. Not like grabbing someone hiking alone in a 1,000-acre state park. He wouldn't bring this attention on himself unless he had no choice. He panicked. Jeremy leaned forward. Maybe. But why the Palmer kid? Did he see something? Know something? He's the key. Figure that out, and you'll find whoever took him. They're trying. The TBI won't say whether they think there's a connection between the jawbone and Lanny. But they have to at least suspect there is. For now, though, they're keeping the discovery secret. Need to know basis only. Makes sense. Nothing to be gained by making the info public. I assume they'll search the area where the bone was found. That's the plan. Cadets from law enforcement around the state are coming in today. They've had so many locals helping, they're afraid somebody's going to trample some evidence. Good luck getting them to stay away, though. You going out there with them? Troy frowned. Don't think so. Planning to make to talk to a few people who knew Lanny. A couple kids from his school seemed a little iffy. Maybe speak with his basketball coach and his boss at the Dairy Queen. Honestly, though, nothing that promises to be very helpful. They've all been interviewed before. The TBI ask you to do that? Of course not. They don't even want the local PD too involved in their interviews, much less one from out of state. Muddies the water too much, they said. Still, a man's gotta eat, right? And if I happen to be around the DQ when I'm hungry, or the high school when classes let out... Jeremy chuckled and shook his head. Follow your instinct. You never know. Oh, and get your application in to the Bureau as soon as you can. If you're still interested, that is. Troy couldn't hide his grin. Definitely interested. Got to do my part before they start issuing walkers to you guys. Do they at least let you pick the color of tennis balls on those things? Sure, as long as you requisition them 6 months in advance. Otherwise, you take what you can get. Pink balls or whatever. Troy nearly spit his soda across the room. Oh man, I can't believe you said that. Jeremy laughed and threw a stack of post-it notes at him. Idiot. Now get out of here before this old man teaches you a thing or two about respecting your elders. Holy shit, 958%. I think you win. The policeman stood at attention and saluted. Yes, sir. Hey, Troy. Good luck today. Be nice to get a little good news for a change. Yeah, it would. We're due, right? Due? He used to think that way. In the end, it all evens out. Might be true for some, but not in this job. There's always another killer. Always. And no matter how many people were slaughtered, no matter how many grieving family and friends were affected, there was only the killer. No balancing of the scales. Jeremy forced a smile. Yeah, Troy. We're due. Chapter 59. Mason huddled over the upstairs workbench and the old barn and inspected the time worm pliers. Most of the rust was gone, but they needed another night in the vinegar bath. After that, a dab of oil would keep them shiny and protected. Grandpa would be proud. His Made in America craftsman tools were still going strong. Good old USA steel forged into the thunk of a closing car door echoed through the building. He edged to the barn entrance and cracked it open. A stranger stood beside a bright red Jeep Wrangler. Its hardtop removed, oversized tires, winch on the front bumper, chassis sitting high off the ground. The boys would have some fun in that thing. The visitor scanned his surroundings and headed for the house, pausing to look over the pumpkin patch before climbing the steps to the porch and knocking on the screen door. After a moment, Paula answered, and the two shook hands. The stranger pulled something from his pocket and showed it to Paula. She smiled, nodded, and motioned him inside. The law. Mason scooted back to the workbench and reviewed his options. He chose a large crescent wrench, feeling its heft before sliding it into his back pocket. Then smeared a bit of grease on his hands, picked up a dirty rag, and headed for the house. The two were in the kitchen when Mason arrived. The stranger seated at the table while Paula poured some coffee. Both looked up and smiled when he walked into the room. Honey, Paula said, this is Officer Obion. He's down from, I'm sorry, was it Kentucky? Troy stood and extended a hand to Mason. No, ma'am, Indiana. Mason wiped his hands with the rag before clasping Troy's hand. Out working on the equipment. Always something to fix around here, and the day's not done unless I get my hands dirty. I understand completely. I've got an uncle in Iowa who used to farm. I remember spending a few summers there when I was a kid. Hard work. Mason nodded. Used to farm. Yes, sir. Ended up selling the place off several years back. Made him an offer he couldn't refuse, as they say. Uh-huh. I suppose to some people money might be more important. Mason, dear, would you like some coffee? Paula held up the pot, her plastered smile belaying the look in her eyes. Sweet tea, please. Now then, officer, what brings you out this way? You helping hunt for that missing boy? Cream or sugar? Paula asked as she placed the coffee in the table. Black is fine, Troy said as he sat back down. Yes, Mr. Miller, I'm here as a volunteer assisting the TBI in the investigation. Mason took a seat across from the officer. Lots of folks helping out. Wouldn't expect nothing less around these parts. Wish I had the time to join them, but between the farm and the corn maze, I've got my hands full. Troy nodded. Your Halloween events are why I'm here. I stopped by the Dairy Queen to speak with Laney's boss, and he told me the boy worked here also. Of course, we already told another officer the whole story. Laney worked out in the corn maze. I had to let him go, though. Got a little rude with some of the customers. Can't have that. We run a family business and expect folks to show respect to each other. Sure, got all that info in the notes from the earlier visit. Never hurts to get a second set of eyes on stuff, though. Paula leaned against the stove. Maybe Laney up and ran away. Seems to me that's the most likely situation. All this talk about kidnapping, well, things like that just don't happen around here. Mason grunted. Don't be ridiculous, Paula. That stuff happens everywhere. We've been lucky, that's all. But how do you know he didn't run away? Mason shrugged. We don't. Could've, but doesn't seem likely. Most of the time, when kids his age run away, there are signs. Broke up with his girlfriend, problems with parents, drug abuse. None of the indications are there. At least, what we know so far. Mason sipped his tea. How can we help? Troy pulled a notepad from his shirt pocket and clicked a pen. I was hoping you could give me more information on what happened that caused Laney to get fired. If you gentlemen don't mind, Paula said, I've got some laundry to do. Certainly, Troy said. Thank you for the coffee, ma'am. My pleasure. She nodded toward her husband. Just don't get him started on any of his farming stories. How his grandpa did this and his father did that. You'll be here till Christmas. Troy smiled at her and turned his focus back to Mason. Now then, sir, if you could walk me through the night you fired Laney. Sure. He was working out in the maze. Got a dozen or so kids who dress up as zombies and wander through. You know, spook things up, make it a little scarier. Of course, we don't do that when the little kids are out there. Not until after dark, when it's mostly teenagers. Troy scribbled a note. How long had Laney worked here? It was actually the first night we were open. He was here last year too, helping out down with the pumpkins. This was his first year to be in the maze. Uh-huh. Any problems with the other kids working out there? None that I know of. It's a small town, and they all go to the same school. I imagine if there were any serious problems, somebody would have heard about it. Gotcha. Now, exactly what did Laney do that caused you to fire him? We tell our workers not to touch anyone. Scaring them is fine, but don't get too close. Even showed them some YouTube videos of workers at haunted houses getting punched by customers. Folks get scared. You don't know how they'll react. It's best for everybody to keep their distance. And I take it Laney broke that rule. He did. A group of 4 or 5 girls around his age came through his area. Near as I could figure, he jumped out behind them and scared them pretty good. They screamed, and he started chasing them. One of the girls fell, and he grabbed her arm. She kicked him hard, and he backed off. When the girls came out of the maze, they told me what happened. Of course, they were laughing about it by then, but rules are rules. And what did Laney say about all this? Said he was just trying to help her up. Didn't matter, though. Look, my single largest expense for this whole deal is the insurance I pay to protect us and the folks that come through here. I don't need that cost to go up. So when someone does something risky, I cut them loose. Not much choice. Makes sense. And how did Laney take it when you let him go? Not good. He apologized, said it wouldn't happen again. I tried to explain why I couldn't keep him on, but the boy, his age, just doesn't get it sometimes. Kept talking about how it's not fair, that other workers did the same thing. I told him I could only deal with the incidents I knew about. He was pretty mad. Angry enough to run away? Mason shrugged. You got any kids? No, sir. Well, when you do, you'll understand. Who knows what goes on in their heads? I imagine by the time he got home, he'd forgotten about it. Could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. Besides, it was almost a week later when he disappeared. I don't think he'd stew on it that long and then decide to up and leave, you know? Uh-huh. Did you see him again after that night? Mason scrunched his forehead. Not that I recall. I mean, it's possible, but I don't think so. We get an awful lot of folks out here, especially on weekends, and it's not like he was banned or anything. He's a good kid, made a mistake, that's all. I reckon Hal will hire him back on next year if he wants. That is, well, sure. Would it be okay if I took a look at the maze? Get an idea of where he worked? If you think it'll help, of course. Can't imagine you'll see anything except corn and decorations. But you're the expert, not me. Troy downed the last of his coffee. Just want to make sure we cover all our bases. I'll need to get the names of those girls before I leave so I can follow up with them too. Mason walked to the sink, dumped the remainder of his tea down the drain, and called for his wife. Paula, we're going out to the maze for a bit. Officer Obian wants to get a feel for it. See where Lainey worked. Of course, I can fix you a thermos of coffee to carry with you, officer. It's quite chilly out there this morning. Troy stood and shoved his chair back under the table. That's very kind, ma'am, but I'll be fine. She smiled and flicked the switch on the coffee pot. It was very nice to meet you. If there is anything we can do to help, you let us know. We're all tore up about this boy. Mason nodded and motioned toward the back door. Hope you wore your walking shoes today. Troy patted his stomach. I could use the exercise. Already had a blizzard for breakfast. Honey, Paula said, put on a heavier coat. Wear some gloves too. Don't need you catching a cold. I'll be fine. Keep your phone close in case we need anything. He followed Troy out the door and down the steps into the yard that opened onto their land. The sun had warmed the ground enough to send up tendrils of steamy heat waves, and the slow breeze struggled to blow ripples through the corn. In the distance, the cattle were hollering to each other, most likely wondering when their hay was coming. The bucolic was quiet of late morning on the farm. Mason casually reached back and squeezed the cold steel of the wrench. Craftsman tools came with a lifetime warranty. Far as he knew, they never really specified whose lifetime. Chapter 60. Mason led the way through the maze. Not quite so scary during the day, huh? Looks like a lot of work, Troy said. Was it hard to set up? Well, not too much. We've done this for a few years now, and it gets easier and bigger every fall. We make enough money off it to help out with repairs and stuff around the farm. But truth be told, we'd probably do it even if we didn't clear a cent. The community's really taken a liking to everything. Gives them something to do without having to drive too far. Lots of families will come out several times during the season. good way to keep in touch with neighbors. Hold on. Hold on to that small town feeling, you know? Troy ran his hand along the stalks as they walked. How do you get the corn so dense in here? Double planted. One way and then again at 90 degrees off that. Anybody ever get lost back here? Mason laughed. All the time. That's why all the workers have to know the closest way out. I try to keep enough people in here so they can keep an eye on the customers. Make sure everyone stays in the paths. Of course, every now and then, somebody will take off trampling through the stalks. We tend to frown on that. It's a lot of work to repair the damage. The men walked past some stacked hay bales with a ghost peeking from behind. Kids ever mess with your decorations? Troy asked. Not really. A few busted pumpkins now and then, but that's about the extent of it. Like I said, we try to keep enough workers back here to keep an eye on things. Mason licked his lips and flexed his fingers. The first scarecrow waited around the next corner. Damon House Houston, wearing a dirty blue button-down shirt with brown tweed jacket, khakis cap, and a pipe wired to his mouth. Looking rather dapper and plasticky. Officer Troy Obian's future depended on his reaction to Dement. Dude. The men turned left and Mason lagged behind the policeman. Troy slowed and glanced at the display. Cool. You light it up at night? Mason traced a finger along the wrench, sort of, battery-powered LED lights inside the skull. And got a few spotlights spread around, but they run off solar. Don't last too long. Plus, we give out flashlights. If I get time, I'd love to come back after dark and go through. Seems like it'd be fun. You're welcome anytime. On the house, of course. Appreciate it. Much farther to Lenny's work area? Another 10 minutes or so if we get a move on. Troy moved to get a closer look at the scarecrow. Great. I'm trying to get out of here before lunch. Might swing back by the DQ before heading to the search area. Shouldn't be a problem. Lanny worked right up this way. Coming? Mason moved off and glanced over his shoulder to ensure the policeman followed. He didn't. Troy stood with his arms crossed, reviewing the scene before him. Never seen a scarecrow like that before. Mason cleared his throat. We call them scarecrows. My youngest son came up with that one. Got the idea from the Dollar General in town. Helps make a $5 skeleton look more real. Anything to increase the spooky factor, you know? Kids these days, almost impossible to scare them. What with all the gory stuff they like to see in the movies. Troy scratched his bottom lip. Uh-huh. Interesting. Looks good. Mason scooted closer to the officer. I hate to hurry you, but... Troy whipped around and faced the farmer. Sorry, I get distracted sometimes. I don't mean to take up too much of your time. I know you've got a lot to do. Lead the way. Mason studied the policeman's face. If he had any suspicions, he hid them well. Okay then. Well, like I said, just a bit farther. Great. I'll be out of your hair in no time. They passed one more scarecrow on the way, Gloria Matthias. Tastefully attired in a purple blouse and black pants, accessorized perfectly with a huge golden brooch, black handbag, and floppy red hat. Troy slowed and smiled at her, but kept walking. This is the spot, Mason said. Lanny worked around here. Right over there's where the incident happened. Not much to see, I'm afraid. Troy paced the area, scanning the ground, and scribbled notes in his pad. A couple of times, he pushed the corn aside and peered into the depths of the field. What you think? Mason asked. Troy slid the pen into the spiral rings of the notepad and slipped it into his back pocket. I think that's a lot of corn. Mason laughed. Give it another month and the field will be bare. The cows will be well fed, though. I appreciate your time, sir. Wish I could say it's been helpful, but there's nothing here. Didn't figure there would be, but leave no stone unturned. Isn't that what they say? I suppose it is. Just wish I could do more. Troy nodded. We all do. Tell you what, if you don't mind, I'd like to spend a little more time out here. Walking in the quiets really felt good, cleared my mind. Farming will do that for you. There's a tie to the land. Not an easy life, but it's a good one. You take all the time you want. Thanks. I'll wander back the way we came in and poke my head in to let you know I'm going. You sure you can find the way? Honestly? No, but I'd like to try. Well, if I haven't seen you in an hour, I'll come looking. Deal? Troy shook hands with Mason. Deal. Mason moved quickly, wanting to put some distance between the two of them. He passed Gloria, her outfit fluttering in the slow breeze, round the next corner and stopped. No sound except for the dry rustling of corn stalks. A few turkey vultures circled lazily overhead, the only dots in the pastel blue sky. A perfect day. The kind of day only someone in touch with being outdoors could understand and appreciate. Hunters, or farmers, or fishermen, or... there. The unmistakable click of a cell phone's camera. A cough, then another click, and another. Mason sighed. A perfect day ruined, or improved, depending upon your perspective. He needed to get back to Paula, make sure she was ready. Her lucky day. Okay, chapter 61. Mason paced the kitchen. Pictures. He's out there taking pictures. Not good, Paula. I wish I could. Enough, Paula said. We knew this might happen. Now we'll deal with it. Try to settle down. Don't want to make him any more suspicious than he already is. How long he's been in there? He couldn't be calling the police, waiting for backup to arrive. It's all closing in around us. Too fast, way too fast. We need to get everything ready. Go ahead with, honey, you're making me nervous. Sit. He's been out there for almost 30 minutes. I'm sure if he's calling for reinforcements, they'd be here by now. Mason peered out the window over the sink. If he's not out of there soon, I'm going to find him. And doesn't matter. Oh, there he is. You ready? She took a deep breath and nodded. For our family. Always. He glanced at his wife and walked down the back steps, waving toward the officer. Troy returned the wave and accelerated his pace. You made it out alive, I see, Mason said. Touch and go there for a while, but I appreciate it. Seriously. Felt good to be outside and let my mind wander. Forget about all the mess that's going on. I know just what you mean. A man needs to clear his head. My daddy and granddaddy and wonder... Oh, I sometimes... Well, I just skipped. Hold on. I know just what you mean. A man needs to clear his head once in a while, or it's liable to explode. I sometimes look back at my daddy and granddaddy and wonder if it was easier for them. Simpler life. You know? Less to worry about. What am I saying? Farmers always worry. It's who we are. Tough way to make a living, I'm sure. Don't think I could do it. Too much stuff out of my control. Mason shrugged. You learn to deal with it any way you can. Be thankful for what you've got. Beyond that, I suppose so. Listen, thanks again. I may take you up soon on your offer to go through the maze one night. You're welcome anytime. Bring some friends if you like. Troy headed for his Jeep. Might just do that. We could all use a distraction, even if it's only for a couple hours. I imagine this stuff, the missing boy, and all, eats away at you. I'm finding that out. They rounded the house and approached the driveway. Well, we're hoping and praying for the best. We know y'all are doing everything you can. Troy opened his vehicle's door. Give my best to your wife. Mason nodded and leaned against the tailgate of his old pickup. Still no other visitors to the pumpkin patch this morning. A blessing to have such a peaceful morning after the last few hectic days. Know what else eats away at you? Beetles. Can't blame them, though. They're only doing what the good Lord created them to do. Troy's eyebrows squished together. I'm not sure I understand. Mason leaned back and casually scratched the back of his head. You will. The deer rifle's report tore through the late morning calm, startling a few birds loitering on bare tree branches. Within seconds, it was all quiet again. And with that, we'll end today's session. We have reached about page 300. So then we'll finish the book next session. We have let's see, 395 pages in the book. So we'll definitely get finished with the rest of it later this month. I appreciate everybody who stopped by today, and I will see you in the next stream. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I will see you later. Okie doke, friendos. I will get the raid started and whatnot, and I'll see you another time. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday.